At the launch gala of my son's venture capital fund, built with the $520,000 I gave him, I stood at the entrance of the Plaza Hotel when his wife blocked my way, her eyes cold. Then my son looked me straight in the eye and said quietly, "Dad, don't 'em?" So I smiled. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I simply turned around and walked because they had no idea. The documents I signed 2 years ago and the call I was about to make would bring everything they built crashing down. This story carries weight. Before we begin, drop a quick comment. Is this your first time here, or have we crossed paths before your voice truly matters in this space? A quick note. Some details are fictionalized to deepen the lesson, but the heart of this story, the message about sacrifice and redemption, is what I hope stays with you. At 55, with calloused hands from 33 years, welding steel across Pittsburgh, and a Purple Heart buried in a closet for 3 decades, I stood outside the plaza, holding an invitation printed with my name, 15 minutes before my son's wife told me I wasn't invited. Saturdays, October 2022, 7:45 p.m. The limousines pulled up to Fifth Avenue one after another, discharging guests in designer clothes I couldn't name. Through the plaza lobby, I could see champagne towers glowing amber under chandeliers, their light spilling across marble floors. I held my invitation card in both hands, reading it again. Harcross Capital Launch, Gala. Desmond Mercer, beloved father of founder. My suit was navy bought in 1998 for Celeste's funeral. The fabric had worn thin at the elbows. I'd pressed it myself that morning, in the Pittsburgh house, steam hissing from the iron, trying to make threadbare look dignified. It was the only suit I owned. I walked through the revolving door. The air inside smelled like perfume and money. Piano music drifted from the grand ballroom, something soft, classical. The kind of thing Celeste used to play on the radio Sunday mornings. I followed the sound down a corridor lined with oil paintings, my shoes loud against the floor. The ballroom entrance opened ahead. Warm light. Voices. I could see my son Griffin inside, standing near a table with ice sculptures shaped like bulls and bears. He wore a suit that looked like it cost more than my mortgage. His hair was perfect. His watch caught the light. Patek Philippe, probably. He was laughing with 3 men in tuxedos, champagne flute in hand. Then she stepped into the doorway. Griffin's wife Leora, 30, blocked the entrance in a black Oscar de la Renta gown, her eyes cold as she studied my threadbare navy suit from 1998. She didn't smile. She looked at my invitation, then at my jacket, then back at my face. "I'm sorry," she said, "but your name isn't on the list tonight." I held up the card. "It's right here, Desmond Mercer, beloved father of founder." She barely glanced at it. Her gaze stayed on my suit, the worn elbows, the 2 short sleeves, the fabric that had seen better decades. "This isn't the kind of space that suits the image we've built," she said. "I'm sorry." I stood there holding the invitation. My hands didn't shake. "Not yet." "Leora," I said. "Griffin sent this. I drove 6 hours from Pittsburgh." "I understand," she said. Her voice was polite final. "But tonight isn't the right night." Behind her, Griffin turned. He saw me. For 3 seconds, our eyes met across 20 feet of ballroom air. My son, 32, stood in the plaza doorway wearing a $5,000 Brioni suit and a Patek Philippe, looking at me like I was a mistake he'd forgotten to erase. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He walked over slow, like a man approaching something embarrassing. He said quietly, "Please don't embarrass us tonight. I'll call Monday." Not, "I'm glad you came," not, "There's been a mistake." Just, "Don't embarrass us." I looked at my son, the boy I taught to weld at 16, the boy whose college I paid for with double shifts at the Southside shop, welding beam after beam until my shoulders ached and my hands bled through the gloves. The boy whose hedge fund launch party I wasn't good enough to attend. How does 33 years of welding steel in Pittsburgh winter, every saved dollar, every double shift, lead to this? Your own son, ashamed of the fabric on your back. I folded the invitation card and slid it into my inner pocket. Didn't say a word. The piano music inside shifted to a nocturne, something melancholy and distant. I turned away. Leora stepped aside. Griffin stayed where he was. Neither of them followed. I walked back through the plaza lobby, past the champagne towers, past the guests in their $1,000 shoes, past the doorman who held the revolving door without looking at me. Out onto Fifth Avenue where the October air smelled like exhaust and roasted nuts from a street cart. I raised my hand. A yellow cab pulled over. "In Hell's Kitchen," I said. 43rd and 9th. The driver nodded. "Bangladeshi, maybe." He didn't ask questions. I slid into the back seat and the cab pulled into traffic. We drove through Times Square. Neon flooded the windows billboards, 20 stories tall, flashing red and gold. Broadway lights, digital screens selling everything and nothing. All that light. And I'd never felt a darker place. My hands started shaking then. I pressed them flat against my knees. The Nokia phone in my jacket pocket buzzed. Oh, I pulled it out. Text message, Griffin. "Dad, please don't make a scene online or anywhere. We'll talk. I love you." I read it 3 times. Not, "I'm sorry," not "come back." Just a warning, don't make a scene. I folded the Nokia and watched Fifth Avenue lights recede through the cab's rear window. The plaza glowed like a castle I was never meant to enter. But they don't know what I know. And they definitely don't know who I know. 2 years ago, I gave Griffin $520,000. Every dollar I had. The deed to Celeste's Lake Erie cabin, the life insurance payout. 33 years of welding steel, compressed into a single wire transfer, because my son said he needed seed capital for his hedge fund, and he promised I'd see it back tenfold. I signed a promissory note. Griffin's attorney drafted it. I didn't read the fine print. I trusted my son. The cab stopped at a red light. 42nd Street. A man in a Yankees cap stumbled past, shouting at no one. I looked at Griffin's text again. "We'll talk. I love you." No apology, no explanation, just image management. The light turned green. The cab rolled forward. Tonight, back in the Hell's Kitchen hotel room, I'd booked for $89. I'm going to do something I haven't done in 14 years. I'm going to call Malcolm Kirkland. And when I do, everything my son built is going to come apart slow enough that he'll feel every second. What do you do when the son you raised alone tells you not to make a scene after you've already given him everything and he's given you nothing but a doorway? You're not allowed to cross. The hotel room cost $189 a night. Hell's Kitchen 9th Avenue room, 412. I checked in at 8:30 p.m. and sat on the bed with my Nokia in my hand, reading Griffin's text for the 4th time. "Dad, please don't make a scene online or anywhere. We'll talk. I love you." I set the phone on the nightstand. The window overlooked a fire escape and a dumpster. Traffic noise drifted up from the street horns, sirens, someone shouting in Spanish. I took off my jacket and hung it on the chair. The threadbare navy fabric looked worse under fluorescent light. 33 years I welded steel. U.S. Steel, Pittsburgh South Side shop. Bad knees by 40. Broken hands twice. 2 back surgeries before I turned 50. Pennsylvania winters, where the wind cut through the warehouse walls and your gloves froze to the torch by lunch. I built bridges, high-rises, steel beams that hold up buildings where men like my son work in suits that cost more than I made in a month. I opened the closet and stared at my reflection in the mirror, screwed to the inside of the door. 55, gray at the temples, hands scarred from arc burns and metal splinters. The kind of face you see and forget. Griffin has forgotten. I sat back on the bed. The Purple Heart was at home, buried at the bottom of my bedroom closet in Pittsburgh, under a box of Celeste sweaters I never had the heart to throw away. February 1991. Desert Storm. IED tore through our convoy in Kuwait. I pulled 2 men out of a burning Humvee before the fuel tank went. One of them was Malcolm Kirkland. I never told Griffin about it. Never hung the medal on a wall, never wore it to a parade. I didn't want him thinking the military made me who I was. I wanted him to see the welder, the father, the man who showed up. But tonight he didn't see any of that. He saw a suit from 1998 and decided I didn't fit the image. You can work yourself to bone and blood for 33 years, and your son will still see only the threadbare suit, never the hands that paid for his. I lay back on the bed and closed my eyes. The pillow smelled like bleach and someone else's hair gel. October 2010. 12 years ago? Celeste died at UPMC Pittsburgh stage. 4 breast cancer, 38 years old. Griffin was 20. I remember him standing at her bedside crying, and I remember thinking I have to raise this boy the rest of the way alone. My wife Celeste died of stage 4 breast cancer 12 years ago at 38, leaving me to raise Griffin alone from age 20 through everything that turned him into the man who blocked me at a ballroom door tonight. 12 years I did it, alone, paid his rent in Manhattan when he was starting out, sent him $200 a month for groceries even when my own fridge was empty, listened to him talk about his hedge fund dreams on the phone every Sunday, nodding along like I understood what arbitrage meant. October 2020, 2 years ago. Griffin called me from New York, said he needed capital to launch the fund. Banks wouldn't lend to him. He needed $520,000, seed money. He promised I'd see it back tenfold. I sold the Lake Erie cabin, the one Celeste left me, the place where we'd planned to retire, 2 bedrooms dock on the water, mornings with coffee watching the boats. I signed the deed over to a couple from Cleveland for $520,000 and wired every penny to Griffin's business account the same day. He sent me a promissory note. His attorney drafted it. I didn't read the fine print. I trusted my son. I opened my eyes. The ceiling had a water stain shaped like Texas. Griffin forgot. He took the money, built his fund, married Leora, and forgot the man who gave him everything. I sat up. 10 p.m. The room was too quiet. I put my jacket back on and walked out. 4 a.m., the streets were empty. I walked from 43rd and 9th all the way to the Brooklyn Bridge, 2 hours on foot through Manhattan cold. My breath fogged in the air. The city smelled like rain and garbage trucks. I stepped onto the pedestrian walkway. Pre-dawn fog rolled in off the East River, thick and gray. I walked to the middle of the bridge and stopped. Wall Street towers rose across the water to my left, yellow lights reflecting on the surface like broken glass. The Brooklyn Bridge suspends me between 2 islands behind me, the hotel where I'm nobody ahead, the towers where my son pretends I don't exist, and I'm standing in the only honest place left. I pulled out my military notebook, black leather frayed at the edges, the one I'd carried since Kuwait. Inside were names, addresses, phone numbers I hadn't dialed in decades. Malcolm Kirkland, 56, the Gulf War brother. I pulled from a burning Humvee after an IED tore through our convoy in Kuwait, February 1991. Now runs a Chicago investment firm, managing $2.1 billion. I hadn't called him in 14 years, not since he sent a Christmas card in 2008 with a photo of his family and a note, "Brother, if you ever need anything, you call." I dialed, 4:30 a.m. in New York, 3:30 in Chicago. The phone rang twice. "Brother," Malcolm said. His voice was calm, awake. "I've been waiting for this call for 2 years." I didn't ask how he knew. I didn't ask why he was awake. I just stood on the bridge watching the fog turn gold as the sun started to break over the horizon. "Like stop by Griffin," I said. "I know," Malcolm said. "I've been watching. We have work to do." "I'm in New York." "The flight's at 9 a.m., he said. "Pittsburgh. I'll meet you there Monday." I put the phone away and watched the East River turn from black to amber. The fog lifted in the sheets, revealing the city piece by piece. After 30 years of hiding my Purple Heart at the bottom of a closet, perhaps it's time to open those files. By Monday morning, I'll be back in Pittsburgh, and Malcolm will show me what he's been preparing. Monday morning, I'm back in my Southside welding shop, where the air smells like hot steel and honesty, waiting for Boyd Frost to tell me what I actually signed 2 years ago when I gave my son $520,000. I caught the 9 a.m. flight from LaGuardia Sunday, 3 hours to Pittsburgh, then a taxi to the South Side where my shop sits on East Carson Street. Tin roof, concrete floor, overhead door that rattles when trucks pass. 33 years I've worked here. 11 a.m. I sat in a white plastic chair from Home Depot. The shop smelled like arc welding and metal dust. Sunlight came through the high windows and diagonal lines. Boyd Frost pulled up in a silver Honda at 11:03. 50 years old, navy polo shirt, laptop bag over his shoulder. My private accountant for 8 years. Boyd Frost, 50. My private accountant of 8 years. Sat across from me in my welding shop, sweating through his navy polo, as he pulled up the $520,000 contract he'd secretly altered for my son. He walked in and nodded. "Morning. It's Boyd." He sat at the welder's table, metal dust covering the surface. Set his laptop on a welding mask and opened it. "You wanted to review the paperwork," Boyd said. "The investment." "That's right." He typed. His fingers moved fast, then stopped. He frowned. Sweat broke out on his forehead. I noticed. "Let me pull the mirror file," he said. His voice had a nervous edge. He typed again. Scrolled. The laptop screen reflected in his glasses lines of text. PDF page numbers, Sir Boyd said slowly. The paperwork you signed 2 years ago wasn't a gift. It's a convertible promissory note. I leaned forward. A what? Convertible promissory note. Senior secured debt. 6.5% annual interest convertible at 65% discount to Series A valuation. Explain it like I weld steel for a living. Boyd's hands trembled as he scrolled. 24 pages. File name, Mercer _ Griffin _ convertible _ note _ October 2020 .pdf. You didn't give Griffin a gift, Boyd said. You loaned him money with interest, and the contract has a conversion clause. You can convert the loan into equity, ownership, a percentage of his company. How much? Boyd typed. Numbers appeared. At the current 48 million valuation, he said, you could acquire 34% of the firm. 34% of 48 million, 16.3 million. Boyd's face was pale. Sweat on his forehead caught the light. How does a man who spent 33 years welding steel without a lawyer understand convertible promissory notes, senior secured debt, Series A valuations? And why would anyone structure a father's gift this way? Who wrote this contract? I asked. Griffin's attorney, Howard Morris, LLP, Manhattan. And you reviewed it? Yes. 2 years ago? Yes. And you didn't tell me what it meant. Boyd looked at the laptop screen, not at me. You were excited to help your son, he said quietly. I didn't think you'd want the legal complications explained. I let the silence sit. Boyd closed the laptop. Fast. He gave me a smile I'd never seen before, embarrassed, guilty. But your son, Boyd said, they're growing well. He won't want to convert. That sentence landed wrong. He won't want to convert. Not you probably shouldn't. Not let me explain your options. Like Boyd already knew what Griffin wanted. Like they'd talked. But, I said, how do you know what my son wants? His face flushed. Sweat ran down his temple. I just mean, he stopped. Hedge funds don't like dilution. Bringing in a new equity partner changes the cap table. It's complicated. You talked to Griffin? No. Too fast. I've read men's faces in burning Humvees at 4 a.m. When they're deciding whether to lie about how bad the bleeding is, I know what guilt looks like. Boyd stood, tucked the laptop under his arm. If you want, he said, I can send you the full PDF. You should probably talk to Griffin before making any decisions. Send it. I'll email it today. He walked toward the door, stopped at the threshold. Desmond, he said, Griffin's doing well. The fund's legitimate. Don't blow this up over a misunderstanding. I didn't answer, and Boyd left. The overhead door rattled as his Honda pulled away. I sat alone in the shop, sunlight cutting through the windows, metal dust floating. That smile, the sweating. The way he closed the laptop like he was afraid I'd ask to see it again. The nervous edge when I asked if he talked to Griffin. Boyd Frost has been my accountant for 8 years, filed my taxes, advised me on retirement, helped me structure Celeste's estate. 2 years ago, when I signed a contract, I didn't understand. He didn't explain it. Why? I pulled out my Nokia. Malcolm's number was in the call log. I texted tomorrow, 8 a.m., your place. He replied 30 seconds later. Already on my way, brother. I set the phone down and stared at the welding table. The contract Boyd showed me, 24 pages. Convertible promissory note. Senior secured debt. Page after page of legal language I signed without reading because I trusted my son. And my accountant. Boyd closes the laptop and stands tucking it under his arm like he's afraid I'll ask to see the screen again. That embarrassed smile. I've known Boyd Frost for 8 years, and I've never seen him smile like that. The kind of smile a man gives when he knows he's done something he can't take back. Tomorrow Malcolm arrives from Chicago, and I'm going to ask him why a convertible promissory note has Boyd Frost sweating through a navy polo in October. Tuesday morning, Malcolm Kirkland spreads the 24-page contract across his cabin table in Squirrel Hill, black coffee steaming between us, and points to page 19, the page Boyd Frost never showed me. 8 a.m. The cabin sits on a wooded lot off Beechwood Boulevard, wooden structure with large windows overlooking the hills. Malcolm's had it, 15 years a place to think, he calls it. Wood-burning fireplace crackling in the corner, smell of pine and coffee. He laid the contract out page by page, weighting the corners with coffee mugs and my military notebook. I sat across from him, watching his hands move through the document. Malcolm looked the same as 30 years ago. 56 now, gray at the temples, same square jaw, same calloused hands. Investment firm founder, managing $2.1 billion. But he still wore flannel shirts and work boots. Page 19, Malcolm said. He flipped to it. 8-point font. Boyd never mentioned this clause, did he? I leaned forward. The text was small, buried in a paragraph labeled Section 7, See Additional Covenants and Riders. SEC Whistleblower, Protection Rider, Note holder retains standing as SEC Rule 21, F-8 Whistleblower, in event of material fraud or misrepresentation discovered in issuer's operations. I read it twice. What does that mean? It means, Malcolm said, if you discover your son's hedge fund is running illegal schemes, you can report it to the SEC as a protected whistleblower. They can't fire you, sue you, or retaliate. And if the SEC recovers money, you get 10 to 30% of the total. I stared at the page. Boyd never mentioned this. No, Malcolm said. He wouldn't. Why not? Malcolm sipped his coffee, set the mug down, looked at me across the table. Brother, he said, I inserted it 2 years before your accountant sent the draft over. I saw your son on Bloomberg and suspected something. The room went quiet, just the fire crackling. You what? Griffin's hedge fund was claiming a 48% profit margin, Malcolm said. No one can do that legitimately, not in this market. Not without pump-and-dump schemes front-running. Or Ponzi structures. I saw the interview and I knew. He tapped the contract. When you called me 2 years ago, asking if I knew a good attorney to review the paperwork, I had my Chicago firm draft this clause and insert it before your accountant ever saw the final version. You signed it, Griffin's attorney signed it. Boyd reviewed it and kept his mouth shut. I didn't know what to say. This is what Gulf War brotherhood means, not just pulling someone from a burning Humvee in 1991, but watching their son on Bloomberg 30 years later and knowing something's wrong before they do. You've been protecting me, I said. For 2 years, Malcolm said, waiting for you to call. And Boyd works for whoever pays him more, Malcolm said. I'm guessing Griffin's been sending him consulting fees. That explained the sweating, the embarrassed smile, the way he closed the laptop. So what now? Malcolm leaned back. Now we build the case. 6 weeks, maybe 8. We collect evidence, document the fraud, cross-reference retail clients who got burned. Then we file with the SEC and let the machinery do what it does. And Griffin goes to prison, Malcolm said, unless he cooperates. I looked out the window. The hills were turning gold and red. October in Pittsburgh leaves falling cold mornings. Somewhere in Manhattan, my son was sitting in an office overlooking the city, managing money he stole from people who trusted him. And I was sitting in a cabin in Squirrel Hill with a Gulf War brother who'd been protecting me for 2 years without asking for thanks. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because, Malcolm said, you needed to see it yourself first. If I'd called you 2 years ago saying your son was running a scam, you wouldn't have believed me. You'd have defended him. Now you know. He was right. I stood. Malcolm stood. We shook hands across the table. Thank you, brother. Don't thank me yet, Malcolm said. This is going to get ugly. Tuesday evening, 8:30 p.m. I sat alone in my welding shop in the dark, one yellow work light hanging from a beam. I drank an Iron City beer balanced on the acetylene tank, the can cold in my hand. Local radio played Springsteen, The River, static crackling through the speakers. The picture of the Lake Erie cabin hung on the workshop wall. 2 bedrooms, dock on the water, mornings with coffee. Celeste and I bought it in 1998, planned to retire there. I sold it 2 years ago for $520,000 to fund Griffin's dream. I closed my eyes. 12 years ago, October 2010. UPMC Pittsburgh Oncology Ward. Celeste in the bed, stage 4, breast cancer, 3rd round of chemo. Failing. 38 years old. Tubes in her arms. Hair gone. She held my hand and looked at me. When he succeeds, she said, he will forget. Don't rescue him then. Don't. I didn't understand. Anna, promise me, she said. When he forgets where he came from, don't save him from the consequences. Let him fall. It's the only way he'll come back. She smiled, reached into the nightstand, pulled out an envelope white sealed with red wax pressed with her thumbprint. "Only open it when I'm gone," she said. I took the envelope, put it in my jacket. She died 3 weeks later. Your wife can know you're going to fail before you fail, and love you enough to leave instructions for when the moment comes. That's the kind of love that doesn't die with the body. I opened my eyes. The beer can was empty. Springsteen finished. The radio went to static. That envelope. 12 years in the safe, sealed with the wax Celeste pressed with her thumb when Griffin was 20 and she was dying. Red wax. Her thumbprint still visible in the dried surface. I stood, walked to the safe in the corner, spun the dial, opened it. The envelope sat on top of a stack of tax returns. White paper red wax, her handwriting on the front. For Desmond, when the time comes. I picked it up, held it in both hands. The wax was cool, smooth. Maybe it's time to open it, but not tonight. I put the envelope back, closed the safe, locked it. Tomorrow, Malcolm and I start building the 6-week plan, and I need to decide if Celeste's words from 2010 were warning or permission. Wednesday morning, I spread the A3 map of Manhattan across my kitchen counter next to scrambled eggs and black coffee. 4 red circles already marked by Malcolm Griffin's fund office, his UES apartment, the plaza, where he rejected me, and the SEC headquarters where this ends. 6:30 a.m. Malcolm sat across from me at the kitchen table, pointer finger tracing routes between the circles. The map showed every street from Battery Park to Central Park, red ink bleeding through the paper where he'd pressed too hard. 6 weeks, Malcolm said. Week 1, we hire my analyst as unpaid summer intern at Griffin's fund. Fake credentials, Columbia MBA. She applies via LinkedIn. Griffin's HR approves her within 3 days because unpaid interns cost nothing, and she looks perfect on paper. I ate the scrambled eggs. They were cold. Week 2 and 3, Malcolm continued. She collects trading patterns from inside, email trails, transaction logs, client lists, everything Griffin thinks is private. And week 4, we cross-reference with retail clients Griffin sold products to, match the pump and dump cycles to victim names, build the damage report. Week 5, preliminary SEC notice, confidential filing under the whistleblower clause. They open an investigation file. Week 6, Malcolm tapped the 4th red circle, SEC headquarters, Lower Manhattan. Public reveal, he said, before he can move $1 to Cayman. I pushed the plate aside, looked at the map. 4 red circles, 6 weeks, my son at the center. This is how you run an operation when the enemy is your own son. You don't charge the hill screaming. You map every trench and wait for him to walk into the crossfire. He built himself. What if he finds out before week 6? He won't, Malcolm said. Not if we keep communication tight. He reached into his jacket and pulled out 2 keys on a steel ring, slid them across the table. Strip District Safe House, he said. 2 blocks from your shop. We'll compile evidence there. Encrypted drives, paper files, the whole case. You don't keep anything at home. I picked up the keys. They were cold heavy. Brother, Malcolm said, from now on we won't be communicating via personal phone anymore. Signal only, encrypted, or in-person meetings at the safe house. No texts, no calls that can be traced. You think he's watching? I think wealthy defendants move money offshore within hours once they suspect investigation, Malcolm said. Cayman Islands, Switzerland shell companies in Panama. By the time the SEC files charges, the accounts are empty and the defendant's in a country with no extradition treaty. He leaned forward. This is why week 6 timing is critical. Griffin must not know until it's too late to run. And how long before he knows we're coming? Malcolm smiled, cold, military. If we do this right, he said, he won't know until he sees your face on that stage. I drank the coffee. It was cold too. Malcolm folded the map, stood, put on his jacket. I'm flying back to Chicago tonight, he said. Next Monday we brief the analyst. You'll meet her then. Willis Tower, 34th floor. What's her name? You'll know Monday, Malcolm said. Operational security. The fewer names we say out loud, the better. He walked to the door, stopped, turned back. Desmond, he said. This gets ugly from here. You ready, babe? I looked at the 4 red circles on the kitchen counter. I'm ready. Malcolm left. The door clicked shut. I sat alone in the kitchen with cold eggs and a map of Manhattan and 2 steel keys to a safe house I'd never seen. Wednesday night, 11 p.m. I sat in the welding shop under yellow work lights organizing my military notebook. Next week I'd be flying to Chicago. Needed to bring the notebook phone numbers. Addresses names from 30 years ago that Malcolm might need. I opened it. Black leather frayed at the edges. Pages filled with handwriting from 1990, 1991, 1992. Kuwait. Desert Storm. Names of men I served with. Most of them I hadn't talked to in decades. A Polaroid photo fell out. Landed face up on the welding table. I picked it up. 1991, Kuwait base, after Desert Storm. 3 people in desert fatigue standing in front of a tent, sun beating down sand everywhere. The photo was faded colors washed to yellow and brown. I was in the middle, 30 years younger, 25 years old. Rifle slung over my shoulder. Malcolm was on the left, same age, same rifle, same exhausted face. Third person on the right. But the face was torn off, just ripped away, clean tear deliberate. The body was still there, desert fatigues, boots, hands, but where the face should have been, just white backing paper showed through. Only the jaw was visible, bottom quarter inch of the face. Yet I stared at it for 30 seconds. Why was it torn? Who was the third person? I tried to remember, closed my eyes. 31 years ago, Kuwait, Desert Storm, 3 soldiers in front of a tent. Desmond, Malcolm, and nothing. The memory was just out of reach. Memory works strange after 30 years. Faces blur. Names vanish. But your hands remember exactly how to field strip an M16 in the dark. And your gut remembers when something matters, even if your brain forgot why. I turned the photo over, handwriting on the back in faded blue ink. Kuwait, February 1991. DM. 3 question marks where the third name should have been. My handwriting, from 31 years ago. Even then I'd forgotten, or someone had made me forget. I flipped the photo back over, stared at the torn face, the white backing paper, the missing identity. Why would I tear someone's face off a photo and then keep the photo? Why write 3 question marks instead of a name? I set the photo down on the welding table, stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the south side streets empty at 11 p.m., streetlights casting orange pools on the pavement. Somewhere in my memory, buried under 31 years of welding steel and raising Griffin alone and watching Celeste die, there was a third soldier, a third brother, someone I pulled from that Humvee or fought beside or trusted enough to stand next to for a photo. And I tore his face off. I walked back to the table, picked up the photo, put it back in the military notebook face down so I didn't have to look at that missing face again tonight. Maybe it's just torn by time. 31 years of desert dust and Pennsylvania winters. But my veteran intuition, the same instinct that kept me alive in Kuwait, tells me to remember this picture well. It will come back. Week 1 starts Monday, and Boyd Frost is about to learn what happens when you smile the wrong way at a welder who reads faces for a living. Week 1. Monday morning, 34 floors above Chicago, in a glass meeting room overlooking Lake Michigan. Malcolm introduces me to the 27-year-old woman who's about to become my son's unpaid summer intern and the reason his hedge fund won't survive November. 10 a.m. Willis Tower. The meeting room had floor-to-ceiling windows, Lake Michigan shimmering gray-blue to the horizon. I flew in. Sunday night slept 3 hours in a hotel near O'Hare. Woke at 5 a.m. thinking about the torn Polaroid still sitting face down in my military notebook back in Pittsburgh. Malcolm sat at the head of the conference table. A woman sat across from me, laptop open, coffee in a paper cup. Astrid Vaughn, 27, sat across from me in the Willis Tower meeting room with a Wharton MBA on her resume and 3 years at the SEC Enforcement Division in her past, the perfect weapon to infiltrate my son's hedge fund. She looked young, blonde hair pulled back tight, sharp eyes, wearing a gray blazer and white blouse, the kind of outfit that said professional but not expensive. No jewelry except a watch. Astrid, Malcolm said, "This is my brother Desmond. His son runs the fund you're about to infiltrate." She shook my hand, firm grip. "Mr. Mercer," she said. "I've reviewed the target file. Harcross Capital, One World Trade Center. Your son, Griffin CEO and founder. Staff of 12. Assets under management, approximately 48 million. I nodded. She turned her laptop so I could see the screen. A LinkedIn profile. Photo of a young woman, Astrid, but different. Hair down, glasses warmer smile. The profile read, Columbia Business School MBA class of 2021. Estate portfolio management. Father owns multifamily properties in Queens. Seeking unpaid summer internship opportunity to gain Wall Street experience. Completely fabricated, Astrid said. Columbia has no record of me. The Queens landlord doesn't exist. But Griffin's HR won't check. They're understaffed and desperate. She clicked a button. Application submitted 90 seconds ago, she said. HR at the fund will call in 48 hours. They're short on staff. Malcolm leaned forward. Objective is simple. Get inside, gain access to trading floor systems, internal Slack channels, email distribution lists, document trading patterns. Collect evidence of the pump and dump cycles we suspect. Especially, Malcolm continued, communications from Griffin's wife Leora. We think she's coordinating the scheme. Astrid nodded, closed the laptop. Once I'm inside, she said, communication goes dark, signal only, encrypted. I'll send reports every Friday at 3 p.m. Central. She looked at me. Mr. Mercer, I need you to understand your son will trust me. I'll be friendly, helpful, eager to learn. He'll think I'm just another Columbia grad looking for Wall Street experience. When this ends, he'll feel betrayed. How does a father become a spy in his own son's life, sitting in Chicago, watching a 27-year-old forge credentials to infiltrate the business he funded with every dollar he ever saved? I understand, I said. Wednesday, week 1, 2 days later. I was back in Pittsburgh, sitting in the Strip District safe house Malcolm had given me keys to. Small apartment above a coffee roaster, one-room desk, encrypted laptop Malcolm's team set up. My Nokia buzzed. Signal message. Astrid. HR called. Interview tomorrow 10 a.m. They want me. I texted back good. Thursday morning, week 1. Another signal message. I'm in. Trading floor access granted. Slack channels visible. Your son thinks I'm eager Columbia grad looking for Wall Street experience. I stared at the message for 30 seconds. My son's unpaid intern was a federal enforcement analyst with fake credentials sitting at a desk 20 feet from him, documenting every transaction he made. And he had no idea. Week 2, Friday, 3 p.m. Central. I sat in the Willis Tower conference room again. Malcolm next to me. 6 monitors mounted on the wall displaying Bloomberg terminal data, green and red candlestick charts, ticker symbols, volume bars. Malcolm's phone buzzed. He opened Signal, downloaded an encrypted file, opened it on the main monitor. Excel spreadsheet, 12 columns, 40 rows of data. Malcolm read out loud. In 6 instances, purchase of small cap biotech stocks 30 days before price movement. Newsletter distribution to retail client list, 2,847 recipients. Peak sale by Harcross Capital while clients bought high. Stock dump within 2 weeks. 40% decline. He scrolled down. Then cycle 1, October 2020. Retail client losses 9.2 million. The cycle 2, February 2021, 11.7 million. It's cycle 3, June 2021, 8.9 million. He kept scrolling. Total retail damage across 6 cycles, 60.4 million. I stood up, walked to the window. 34 floors above Chicago. Lake Michigan stretched gray to the horizon, cold November wind making the glass hum. 2,847 clients, Malcolm said quietly behind me. Mostly retirees. 2,847 people. Grandmothers in Florida, retired teachers in Ohio. Widowers in Arizona, and my son took their life savings the same week he told me I'd embarrass him at the plaza. I turned around. My son isn't just humiliating his father, I said. He's defrauding 2,800 elderly people nationwide. Malcolm nodded, closed the laptop. Brother, he said, that's why the SEC whistleblower clause exists. I looked at the Bloomberg screens, green and red, numbers scrolling, millions of dollars moving through accounts while retirees in Florida watched their savings vanish. Griffin built this. My son. The boy I raised alone after Celeste died. The boy whose college I paid for with double shifts welding steel in Pennsylvania winters. He built a machine to steal from elderly people, and I funded it. What's next? I asked. Week 3, Malcolm said. You go to New York, unannounced. Bring him lunch, play the loving father. We need to see how he reacts when you show up without warning. Reconnaissance. Exactly. I walked back to the conference table, looked at the spreadsheet one more time. $60.4 million, 2,847 victims. The SEC whistleblower protection. Malcolm inserted 2 years ago just became a loaded gun pointed directly at Griffin's future. And I'm the one holding it. Week 3, Wednesday. I walk into the lobby of One World Trade Center carrying a pastrami sandwich from Katz's Deli in a grease-stained paper bag, the picture of a blue-collar father who just wants to see where his successful son works. 12:45 p.m. The lobby smelled like marble cleaner and money. Elevator to 52nd floor. White Carrara marble walls, brushed gold letters, Harcross Capital. Receptionist behind curved desk. Young woman headset, 3 monitors. Can I help you? I'm here to see my son, I said, held up the bag. Brought him lunch. She blinked, confused. Your son? Griffin Mercer. I'm Desmond. She whispered into her phone. Griffin appeared from a hallway. Charcoal suit, pale face. Dad, why didn't you announce you were coming? I smiled. I just wanted to see your workplace. Brought you lunch, pastrami, extra mustard. Griffin stared. The receptionist watched. Other employees passed. He had no choice. Come on, Griffin said quietly. I'll show you around. Glass walls showed trading floor. 6 Bloomberg terminals, numbers scrolling, young analysts in expensive suits. Griffin's corner office, windows overlooking Lower Manhattan, Hudson River Gray. I set the bag on his walnut desk. Nice view. Can I see the trading floor? Griffin hesitated. Dad, we're in the middle of a workday. Is it just 5 minutes? I said. I want to see what you built. He sighed, led me out. I played the part. Befuddled father. What do these screens show? What's a Bloomberg terminal? How many people work here? But while I talked, I memorized. Desk nameplates, Tyler Ashford, Rebecca Hayes, Marcus Donovan, 6 traders, their faces, desk positions, terminal assignments, conference rooms behind them, glass walls, whiteboards. You can spend 33 years being a father and one afternoon being a spy in your own son's office, and he'll never know the difference because he stopped looking at you years ago. One corner desk, Astrid Vaughn, different hair, glasses. She glanced up, smiled, politely returned to her screen. Griffin didn't notice. We reached the elevator. Griffin pressed the button. Dad, he whispered, don't come back without an appointment. I looked at him. 32 years old, stealing from elderly people. Next time I come, I said quietly, I won't need an appointment. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. Griffin stayed in the lobby. The doors closed. Week 3, Friday morning, 8 a.m. Strip District safe house. Metal desk, encrypted laptop. Smell of roasting coffee from below. Nokia buzzed. Signal message. Malcolm. Check email. Encrypted. I opened the laptop. Attachment zip file. 23 emails. PDF scans. From Griffin Mercer to Boyd Frost. Date. October 2nd, 2020. Subject contract structure. Boyd need the convertible note drafted in favorable terms. My attorney will review, but I want your input first. Let's discuss compensation separately. From Boyd Frost to Griffin Mercer. Date. October 5th, 2020. Subject recontract structure. Griffin happy to help. For this level of work, my consulting fee is $85,000. PayPal business works. I scrolled through the rest. 23 emails over 2 weeks. Boyd and Griffin coordinating contract language, structuring it to give Griffin maximum control, minimize my protections. Griffin paid Boyd $85,000. My accountant of 8 years, the man who filed my taxes, helped structure Celeste's estate, sat in my welding shop sweating through a navy polo. He sold me out. $85,000 is what it costs to buy a man's loyalty when that man has spent 8 years pretending to be your friend, cheaper than I would have guessed. Laptop screen lit up. Video call. Malcolm. His face appeared Willis Tower office behind him. You read them? Yeah. Your son paid Boyd $85,000 via PayPal business 2 years ago to structure the contract favorably, Malcolm said. Boyd drafted it to benefit Griffin. What Boyd didn't know, I inserted the SEC whistleblower clause at the final minute after Boyd sent the draft to Griffin's attorney. Boyd never saw page 19. So Boyd thought he was screwing me over. Correct, Malcolm said. That's why he was sweating when you asked him to review it. I stared at the emails. 23 messages. 2 men coordinating how to steal from me. Brother, Malcolm said. Don't kill him. Go legal. I closed the laptop, sat in silence for 30 seconds, Malcolm's face on the screen waiting. Finally, I looked up. Brother, you're right, don't kill Boyd, but I need a pen. Malcolm smiled, cold, military. What are you thinking? Boyd's been my accountant for 8 years, I said. He has access to all my financial records, tax returns, estate documents, everything. And I'm walking into his office this afternoon, giving him 60 minutes to hand over every file, every record, every piece of paper with my name on it. Then he signs a document swearing he'll never practice accounting in Pennsylvania again. Or I file a complaint with the PA Board of Accountancy, I said. 23 emails showing he took $85,000 to betray a client. They'll pull his license in a week. Malcolm nodded. That's legal. That's smart. I ended the call, stood, looked out the window at Strip District streets, Friday afternoon traffic, coffee shop across the street, people in line. Boyd Frost is about to learn that the price of betrayal isn't always paid in blood. Sometimes it's paid in signatures. Friday afternoon, I walk into Boyd Frost's accounting office in Oakland with a printout of 23 emails and no intention of raising my voice, because men who've spent 8 years lying to you don't deserve the energy it takes to shout. 2 p.m. The office sat on Craig Street above a dry cleaner, second floor, narrow stairs. The door had his name stenciled in Gold Boyd Frost, CPA. I walked in without knocking. Boyd sat behind his desk laptop, open spreadsheets on dual monitors. He looked up, saw me. His face went pale. Desmond. I placed the printout on his desk. 23 pages, stapled. Boyd looked down, started reading. His hands trembled. From Griffin Mercer to Boyd Frost. Date, October 2nd, 2020. Boyd needed the convertible note drafted in favorable terms. He didn't need to read the rest. He knew what was there. I sat down across from him, didn't lean forward, didn't raise my voice, just spoke. Give me my full client file in 60 minutes, I said. Or I send this to the PA Board of Accountancy. You know the consequence. Boyd's face turned white, whiter than when I walked in. Sir, please. 60 minutes, I said. Every document, every contract, every tax return, everything with my name on it. Then I walk out and you forget my phone number. He nodded, trembling. I pulled out my Nokia, set a timer, placed it on his desk. 59 minutes, I said. Boyd stood, walked to the filing cabinet, started pulling folders. I sat and watched. There's a particular silence that fills a room when a man realizes the professional reputation he spent 30 years building can disappear with one phone call. Boyd sat in that silence for 45 minutes while I waited. He didn't try to explain, didn't apologize, just worked, pulled files, photocopied documents he legally had to keep originals of, compiled everything into a cardboard file box, tax returns from 2015 to 2022, estate documents from Celeste's death, the Lake Erie cabin sale paperwork, investment records, bank statements. 2:45 p.m., 15 minutes left on the timer. Boyd set the box on his desk. Wouldn't meet my eyes. I stood, picked up the box. Heavy. 8 years of my financial life compressed into cardboard. Forget my phone number, I said. Boyd nodded. I walked out, down the narrow stairs, into the parking lot. My truck sat in the corner spot. I put the box in the passenger seat. Drove toward the Strip District where FedEx would ship it overnight to Malcolm in Chicago. My Nokia buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Caller ID showed a number I hadn't seen in 6 years. Leora Whitfield. Griffin's wife, calling me directly for the first time since their wedding. I didn't answer. Let it ring. Voicemail. She didn't leave a message. Week 4, Monday, 2:30 p.m. I sat in my living room in the Southside house reading the Sunday paper. Steelers lost again. Forecast called for rain. A car pulled up outside. Engine idling. I looked through the window. Black 2024, Range Rover Velar, New York plates. The driver's door opened. Leora stepped out. She wore a camel-colored cashmere sweater, Brunello Cucinelli probably, and dark jeans. Sunglasses, hair perfect. She walked up to my porch, knocked. I opened the door. "Papa," she said, smiled. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. She walked in. Didn't remove her shoes. $1,000 heels clicking straight across Celeste's hardwood floors. You can tell everything about someone's intentions by whether they remove their shoes when entering your home. Leora walked straight across Celeste's floors in $1,000 heels. And I knew this wasn't a peace offering. "Coffee?" I asked. "No, thank you," she said. Looked around the living room, the old couch, the Pittsburgh Steelers pennant on the wall, the photo of Celeste and me at Lake Erie. "Papa, I wanted to talk to you about something," Leora said. Sat on the couch without being invited. "Griffin and I have been discussing your situation. My situation. Living alone in this big house," she said. "It must be hard, maintaining it. The stairs, winter coming." I sat in the recliner, waited. "We want to buy this house," Leora said. "Market value is $185,000. We'll pay $340,000. Cash. You can move to Florida. A beautiful senior community. Enjoy retirement properly." She smiled, warm, generous. I looked at her for 5 seconds. $340,000 for a house worth $185,000, almost double. She wanted me gone from Pittsburgh, out of my operational base, away from Malcolm, away from the Strip District safe house, away from everything. This wasn't generosity. This was strategic warfare. "This house was built by Celeste and me," I said. "I'll die here." Leora's smile froze. "Papa, I really think—" "No," I said. She stood. The smile vanished completely. "I'd suit yourself, Papa," she said. Her voice was ice. She walked to the door, opened it, stepped out onto the porch. Didn't close the door behind her. Just left it standing wide open. Walked to the Range Rover, got in, drove away. I stood in the doorway watching the black SUV disappear down the street. Yellow leaves blew across the sidewalk. October wind, cold. She left my door open like I was nobody worth the effort of closing it for. I stood on the porch for 10 seconds. Then I pulled out the Nokia and called Malcolm. He answered on the first ring. "Brother, it's escalating," I said. "Leora just tried to buy my house for double market value. Get me out of Pittsburgh. She called me Friday for the first time in 6 years. They know something's coming." "How much do they know?" "I don't know," I said. "But they're moving. Push the timeline forward 1 week." Silence on the line. Then Malcolm spoke. "At 6 weeks becomes 5, he said. "Accelerated schedule. Can you handle it?" "Yes." "The Thursday," Malcolm said. "Chicago Club, 7 p.m., private dining. I'm introducing you to 6 fund managers and family office principals, Midwest Tier 2 players. They need to hear your story before we go public. I'll be there." I ended the call, walked back inside, closed the door Leora left open. Week 4 just became week 5, and they're starting to feel the pressure, which means they're about to make mistakes. Thursday evening, 7th floor of the Chicago Club. Malcolm introduces me to 6 Midwest money managers around a walnut table overlooking the Chicago River as my Gulf War brother, Pittsburgh welder, potential SEC whistleblower, and I watch their polite faces try to figure out why a 55-year-old welder matters to their world. 7 p.m. The private dining room smelled like leather and single malt scotch. Tall windows overlooked the Chicago River city lights reflecting on black water. The walnut table seated 8. Crystal glasses, white cloth napkins. Malcolm sat at the head. I sat to his right. 6 men in suits filled the other chairs, fund managers, family office principals, managing between $500 million and $3 billion each. Tier 2 Midwest money, not Wall Street, not Manhattan, but serious. Malcolm poured scotch. 18-year Macallan. "Gentlemen," Malcolm said, "this is my brother Desmond, Gulf War Desert Storm. His son runs the hedge fund we're about to expose." The 6 men nodded, professional, polite. Malcolm gestured to me. "Tell them." I kept it brief. Plaza Hotel, Griffin's gala, Leora blocking the entrance, the threadbare suit. "Don't embarrass us tonight." 5 minutes, no drama. The investors listened, sympathetic faces, a few murmured condolences, but I could see it they were here as a favor to Malcolm. Not because they cared about a welder from Pittsburgh whose son humiliated him. Except one man, Stuart Harrington, 52, CEO, managing a $6 billion Midwest investment fund. Sat across the Chicago Club table, studying my face with an intensity that made the other investors uncomfortable, and I didn't know why until he stood up and walked toward me. He didn't speak at first, just stared at me. 10 full seconds. The room went quiet. The other investors stopped talking. Glasses set down. All eyes on Stuart. Stewart frowned, leaned forward, looked at my face like he was trying to place it from memory. Then he stood, pushed his chair back, walked deliberately around the walnut table, 6 feet, 5, 4, stopped directly in front of me. "Are you the sergeant," Stewart said slowly, "who pulled the soldier from the burning Humvee on Highway 80 in February 1991? I froze. Highway 80, February 1991. Kuwait, Desert Storm. I hadn't thought about Highway 80 in years. 31 years is how long it takes for a burning Humvee in Kuwait to matter in a Chicago boardroom. You save a man's life in 1991, and his son shows up in 2022 to save yours back. I started. Stewart's voice was measured, controlled. The convoy hit an IED. The Humvee caught fire. You pulled 2 Marines out before the fuel tank exploded. One of them was my father. The room was silent. Malcolm sat perfectly still. The 6 investors watched. I stood, slowly. "Your father," I said. Stewart nodded. "Marine Lance Corporal, your unit, Highway 80, February 1991. The Humvee was already on fire when you went back in. He had 3rd-degree burns over 40% of his body. I remembered the heat, the smoke, the screaming, pulling 2 men through the rear hatch, metal so hot it burned through my gloves. He survived," Stewart said. 28 more years. He passed in 2019, but he lived because of you. He told me the story every February 2nd, anniversary of the day you saved his life." Stewart extended his hand. I shook it. His grip was firm, steady. "I was 21 when my father nearly died," Stewart said. "I built my career knowing he only survived because of you. Every success I had, he was there to see it. My wedding, my daughter's births. 28 years. He didn't let go of my hand. I owe you my father's life," Stewart said. "Whatever you need, tell me." The room stayed silent. 6 investors, Malcolm Stewart and me. Chicago River flowing past the windows 34 floors below. I leaned closer, whispered, "I might need you to testify for the SEC." Stewart didn't hesitate. "Tomorrow I clear my calendar," he said. "Sometimes the allies you need aren't the ones you plan for. They're the ones you pulled from burning metal 3 decades ago, without knowing they'd have a son who'd grow up to run $6 billion. Stewart sat back down, picked up his scotch, raised the glass. "To Desmond," he said. The 6 investors raised their glasses, drank. Malcolm looked at me across the table, nodded once. I sat down. My hands were shaking. Stewart leaned forward. "What do you need?" he asked. "Credibility," I said. "My son runs a hedge fund. I'm a welder. When the SEC holds hearings, they'll ask why anyone should believe me over a 32-year-old Columbia MBA with a clean record. And if a $6 billion fund CEO testifies on your behalf, then they listen," I said. Stewart nodded. "I'll do it. Written statement, deposition, public testimony if needed. Whatever format the SEC requires. It could damage your reputation," I said. "Going against another fund manager. Wall Street doesn't like that." Stewart smiled, cold. "My father lived 28 years past February 1991, he said. He met my wife. He held my daughters. He watched me build this fund. Every single day of those 28 years, I had him because of you." He set his glass down. "Reputation doesn't matter," Stewart said. "Debt does." The dinner lasted another 2 hours. Business talk, fund performance, market conditions. The 6 investors asked questions about Griffin's scheme, Astrid's evidence collection, the SEC timeline. Stewart asked for documentation, email trails, trading patterns, client lists. Malcolm promised to send everything encrypted by morning. 9:30 p.m. The investors stood, shook hands, left. Stewart stayed. "One more thing," he said when the room cleared. "My father told me there were 3 soldiers in that convoy. You, Malcolm, and a 3rd man. He never remembered the 3rd name. Do you—" I thought about the torn Polaroid, the missing face, the 3 question marks where a name should have been. "No," I said, "I don't." Stewart nodded. "If you remember, tell me. My father always wondered." He left. Malcolm and I sat alone at the walnut table. Chicago River black outside the windows. Stewart Harrington commits to clearing his calendar tomorrow for SEC testimony, Malcolm said. "You just gained a $6 billion fund CEO who owes you his father's existence." I looked out at the Chicago skyline, lights stretching to the horizon. The Gulf War network runs deeper than Griffin's Wall Street connections. And Griffin never saw this coming. Week 5 starts Monday. And now I have institutional firepower. Sunday morning, I come home from Chicago to find my back door standing open lock. Professionally picked with no forced entry. 3 drawers in my bedroom ransacked, and the 55-inch TV still mounted on the wall, untouched. 11 a.m. Week 5. I parked in the driveway. The back door swung in the November wind. I walked up the steps slowly. The lock wasn't broken, the cylinder turned smoothly. Professional lock-picking tools. No damage to the frame, no scratches on the metal. Inside the kitchen looked normal. Dishes in the sink, coffee maker where I left it. The drawer by the stove stood open. I kept emergency cash there. $2,800 in hundreds. Still there, untouched. I walked to the bedroom. 3 drawers pulled out contents scattered across the floor. Family papers, old contracts, letters from Celeste, tax documents from 15 years ago, all spread out like someone had been searching. The 55-inch TV on the wall, still mounted, still plugged in, worth $1,200. Not stolen. I stood in the doorway looking at the mess. Someone had walked through my house, gone through my wife's letters, touched things that weren't theirs to touch, looking for leverage, something to use. This wasn't robbery. This was intimidation. I pulled out my Nokia, called the police. 11:30 a.m. A patrol officer arrived. Young guy, maybe 30. Examined the lock, surveyed the ransacked drawers, noted the TV, the cash. "And strange burglary, sir," he said. "Professional entry but nothing taken." He filed a report, case number, said they'd check pawn shops for my belongings. I didn't tell him nothing was missing, just thanked him. He left. I walked to my bedroom closet, moved the box of Celeste's sweaters, spun the combination on the safe hidden behind them. 42-17-8. The safe opened. Celeste's sealed envelope. White paper red wax, her thumbprint still visible. 12 years old. Still there. The Gulf War Polaroid with the torn face. Still there. My Purple Heart. Still there. Whoever came through my house hadn't found the safe. But they'd tried. Someone walking through your house while you're gone, touching your wife's old letters, looking for something to use against you that's not burglary. That's declaring war on everything you've tried to protect for 30 years. I packed the envelope and the Polaroid into a manila folder, locked the safe, put the box of sweaters back. These items couldn't stay in this house anymore. Leora, or whoever she'd hired, was escalating to physical intimidation. Next time, they might find the safe. I drove to the Strip District safe house, carried the folder upstairs, put it in the desk drawer. Celeste's words would be safe there. Week 5, Tuesday, 2:07 a.m. I was sleeping in the safe house bedroom when the Nokia buzzed on the nightstand. I sat up, grabbed the phone. Malcolm's number. "Brother," Malcolm said. His voice was wide awake. "The analyst found it." I turned on the lamp. 2 a.m. "R found what?" "Leora," Malcolm said. "Astrid hacked deeper. Your daughter-in-law has a Cayman Islands shell company, 2 years active, total $485,000, withdrawn from Griffin's hedge fund, routed through the offshore account." I stood, walked to the window. Strip District streets empty at 2 a.m. 485,000, I repeated. "Embezzlement," Malcolm said. "But that's not the critical part." "What's the critical part?" "She has a phone number she contacts weekly," Malcolm said. 47 call logs over 18 months. Always 2 to 7 minutes, always from burner numbers. "Whose number?" "Managing Director of Peregrine Capital," Malcolm said. "Your son's Tier 1 Wall Street competitor." I stood at the window. 2 a.m. cold November air seeping through the glass. "Say that again." "Peregrine Capital," Malcolm said. "Major New York hedge fund, $5 billion in assets, direct competitor to Griffin's fund. Leora has been calling their managing director weekly for 18 months. Why, Astrid pulled email trails," Malcolm said. "Leora forwarded Griffin's proprietary trading strategies, client lists, and investment memos to the MRD. She's been feeding competitor intelligence for a year and a half." I pressed my forehead against the cold window. Your son can fall in love with a woman who never loved him back, who married him to steal his life's work for a competitor. And he'll never see it because he stopped listening to the father who would have warned him. She didn't marry Griffin because she loved him, I said. "No," Malcolm said. "She married him to steal from him." "Yes." "Corporate espionage." "Correct," Malcolm said. "Peregrine embedded her. She got close to Griffin, married him, gained access to everything, then fed it back to her handler for 18 months. I sat down on the bed, 2:07 a.m. The room was cold. The pump and dump scheme, I said. Was that Griffin or Leora? We don't know yet, Malcolm said. Could be Griffin, could be Leora manipulating him, could be both. Astrid's still collecting. And the $485,000 she embezzled. Payment, Malcolm said. Peregrine pays her through the Cayman shell. She takes a cut directly from Griffin's fund to cover her tracks, makes it look like she's stealing on her own, not working for someone. I held the Nokia in both hands. Does Griffin know? Unknown, Malcolm said. Either he's complicit or he's the most naive 32-year-old hedge fund manager in Manhattan. I sat in the dark bedroom, 2 a.m. Strip District silent outside. Brother, I said, she didn't marry my son. She targeted him. Malcolm was silent for 3 seconds. Then he spoke. I was hoping you'd see it yourself, Malcolm said. I looked at the desk drawer where Celeste's envelope sat. The envelope she sealed 12 years ago, with instructions I still haven't opened. Maybe she knew this would happen. Maybe she saw Griffin falling for the wrong woman before it happened. Maybe mothers know things fathers don't. What now? I asked. Wednesday 9 a.m., Malcolm said. Willis Tower War Room. My team presents full forensic evidence. 6 pump and dump cycles. 485,000 embezzlement. 47 call logs. Email trails. Everything. And then, Malcolm said, we decide whether to save your son or let him go down with her. I ended the call, set the Nokia on the nightstand, sat in the dark. Griffin isn't the villain. He's the victim. And his wife is the handler running a 2-year industrial espionage operation against him. Malcolm had transformed the 67th floor conference room at Willis Tower into something between a war room and a crime lab. 3 wall-mounted monitors displayed spreadsheets called logs and wire transfer records. Wednesday morning sunlight cut through Chicago's skyline as I stepped inside at 9 sharp. Coffee's on the credenza, Malcolm said without looking up from his laptop. You'll need it. I poured a cup and sat across from him. The table held 6 manila folders, each labeled with dates spanning 14 months. Behind him, the monitors flickered as he pulled up new windows. 6 cycles. He began tapping the first folder. January through March last year. Your son's fund identifies undervalued biotech stocks, builds positions over 3 weeks. Then releases positive research reports. Stock jumps 18 to 32%. Fund exits within 48 hours. I'd seen pump and dump schemes before street-level cons that left retail investors holding worthless paper. That's the fraud, that's the surface. Malcolm opened the second folder. April through June, same pattern. Different sectors, fintech, clean energy, semiconductors. Then July through September. October through December. January through March this year. April through June. The coffee tasted like ash. 60 million across 2847 investors. Correct. Malcolm pulled up a Cayman Islands banking portal on the center monitor. But here's what kept me up last night. Every cycle, $485,000 gets siphoned through a shell company called Meridian Holdings Limited, incorporated in Georgetown 14 months ago. My hand stopped halfway to the cup. Someone's skimming. Someone's funding something. He clicked through wire transfer records. Meridian Holdings has one beneficial owner, Leora Mercer, maiden name Bloom. Israeli passport issued in Tel Aviv, July 2019. The room tilted slightly. I set down the coffee before I dropped it. Malcolm brought up the third monitor, a call log spreadsheet with 47 highlighted entries. Leora's mobile to Lyle Caldwell's direct line at Peregrine Capital. Caldwell's a managing director there. Calls range from 4 minutes to 38 minutes, all during market hours, all within 72 hours before Griffin's fund initiates a new position. She's feeding him intelligence, I said quietly. Like she's feeding Peregrine Capital your son's entire strategy. Malcolm opened another window, email headers, forwarded messages, encrypted file transfers. Leora accesses Griffin's research database every Sunday night when he's at the office. Downloads proprietary models, analyst reports target lists. Forwards everything to an encrypted relay server in Zurich. From there, it routes to Caldwell's personal account. I stared at the screens. 6 cycles. 47 calls, $485,000. Griffin's not running the fraud, I said. Malcolm met my eyes. Griffin's the victim. Peregrine Capital embeds Leora, marries her into the family, uses her to front-run every major trade. They make billions. She takes a cut. Griffin takes the legal liability when the SEC comes knocking. The evidence had been building for weeks. The House offered Boyd's sudden cooperation the break-in. I'd assumed my son was a criminal. I'd been wrong. But he'd still rejected me at that gala, still let his wife make that crack about my boots. Did it matter if he was a victim when he'd treated me like dirt? Malcolm closed his laptop. Question is, what do we do with this? I stood and walked to the windows. 70 stories below Chicago, moved through its Wednesday morning commuters' deliveries, construction crews welding steel, just like I'd done for 30 years. Honest work, honest money. My son had built something. Maybe he'd been arrogant about it. Maybe he'd married the wrong woman, but someone had targeted him, used him, set him up to take a fall that would destroy everything he'd created. I turned back to Malcolm. We activate the whistleblower clause. You'll own 34% of the fund. I'll own 34% of the evidence, and I'll control the timeline. I checked my watch. 11:15. Can you get Howard Morris on the phone? By 2 o'clock, I was sitting in a 42nd floor conference room at Howard Morris LLP, signing my name on 3 documents that would change everything. The first SEC form, TCR, whistleblower status. Protected by federal law. Entitled to 10 to 30% of any monetary sanctions exceeding $1 million. By checking that box, I became untouchable. The second notice of conversion. The $520,000 convertible promissory note. My life savings. My house. Everything I'd built converted to equity at the fund's current $48 million valuation. 1,632 shares. 34% ownership. Second largest shareholder after Griffin. The third derivative lawsuit, filed on behalf of 2847 defrauded investors against Leora Mercer Meridian Holdings, Limited Lyle Caldwell, and Peregrine Capital Management. 3 signatures, 3 layers of legal protection that lock together like armor plating. All these get filed simultaneously, I asked Howard. The Form TCR goes to the SEC within the hour. The conversion notice gets delivered to Griffin's office by courier at 9 a.m. tomorrow. The derivative suit gets filed in Southern District of New York at 9:05. He'll know by 9:30 tomorrow morning. He'll know his father just became his partner, his protector, and his biggest problem. Howard slid the documents into a leather folio. What are you going to tell him? I signed the last page and pushed it across the table. I'd tell him I'd uncovered the truth. I'd tell him I'd taken steps to protect the fund and the investors. I'd tell him we had evidence that would destroy Peregrine Capital and everyone who'd used him. And I'd tell him his wife isn't who he thinks she is, and neither am I. Friday morning, I sit at the Hell's Kitchen hotel desk with blank paper and write 3 questions I will ask my son. The first, do you know how many people your pump and dump scheme defrauded? The second, do you know your wife sends your trading strategies to your competitor? The third, if I gave you one last chance, would you choose me or choose your wife and the scheme? I fold the paper and slide it into my wallet next to the Purple Heart. Outside 9th Avenue wakes up delivery trucks, morning shift workers, the hiss of steam from the Korean diner downstairs. Black coffee sits cooling on the pressboard desk. Same $189 room I've been staying in for 5 weeks. My phone vibrates. Signal message from Malcolm, 7:23 a.m. Brother, he received notification at 6:47 this morning. No response yet. I type back, he'll wait until I'm in his office. He wants the advantage. 3 dots, then, you carrying. I look at the empty space in my duffel, where the Beretta usually sits. Left it in the Pittsburgh safe 2 days ago. Deliberate choice. Today I'm a father, not a soldier. I pack the wallet with the Purple Heart. I pack the Howard Morris LL Yappy folder with the conversion documents. I pack a clean shirt and the same steel-toed boots I wore to the Plaza Gala 5 weeks ago. What I don't pack the gun, the tactical vest, the mindset that kept me alive in the Gulf. When do you stop being a soldier and start being a father again? Or are they the same thing when your son is under siege? I finish the coffee and check out at 8. The Q train to Lower Manhattan takes 40 minutes. I spend it reading through Malcolm's forensic report one more time. 47 call logs, 485,000 in wire transfers, 6 pump and dump cycles that Griffin never authorized, but Leora orchestrated from inside his own office. My son isn't the villain, he's the target, but he still looked at me like dirt at that gala, still let his wife make cracks about my boots. Does that change what I'm about to do? Before I walk into that office, are you still with me? Comment A, if you think Griffin will accept the truth, or B, if he'll fight back and add one short reason in 10 words or less. Please note, what follows contains some recreated details for narrative purposes, but the core lesson is what matters. At 9:55, I step off the elevator onto the 52nd floor of One World Trade Center. Griffin's office sits at the end of a glass corridor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking New York Harbor walnut conference table that probably cost more than my truck. Herman Miller chairs in black leather. The view stretches from the Statue of Liberty to the Verrazano Bridge. My son sits behind the table in a 3-piece Brioni suit, the color of charcoal Patek. Philippe watch catching the morning light. He doesn't stand when I enter. Dad. Son. I place the Howard Morris LLP folder on the table between us and sit. I'm notifying you officially, I say. I have converted my note into 34% equity in Mercer Capital Fund. As of yesterday, I am co-owner. I have also filed SEC whistleblower report regarding the pump and dump scheme affecting 2847 investors. Griffin's face doesn't change for 3 seconds. Then he laughs short, sharp, dismissive. Dad, you don't understand convertible notes. You can't convert unless there's a trigger event board approval acquisition, IPO. You don't just decide. I open the folder and slide the notice of conversion across the walnut. The trigger event is material fraud. I've filed it with the SEC. He picks up the document, scans the first page, the second. His face goes from dismissive to confused to pale. This is, he sets it down, picks up the SEC form, TCR, reads the whistleblower designation, the protection clauses, the monetary sanction entitlements. Dad, do you understand what you've done? I can't move capital without your written approval. You've frozen my fund. I've protected 2847 investors, I say. That's what I've done. His hands grip the edge of the table. The Patek Philippe slides on his wrist. You filed a derivative lawsuit against my wife, against Leora Mercer Meridian Holdings, Limited Lyle Caldwell, and Peregrine Capital Management. The evidence is attached. He flips to the exhibits call, logs wire, transfers email, headers showing Leora forwarding proprietary research to Peregrine's managing director. 47 calls. $485,000 siphoned through a Cayman shell company she owns. For 3 seconds I see him at age 7, asking me to teach him to weld. Then I see him now, $4,000 suit, $80,000 watch. 2847 victims he never intended to create, but whose money his wife helped steal anyway. She's been embedded for 14 months, I say quietly. Peregrine Capital married her into this family to front-run every major trade you make. They profit billions. She takes a cut. You take the legal liability. Griffin stands. The chair rolls backward and hits the window. This isn't possible. You're a welder. You don't... His voice cracks. You didn't do this alone. Who helped you? I meet his eyes across the walnut table. Same green eyes as mine. Same anger. Same confusion I felt the day I came home from the Gulf and realized my marriage was over and my son didn't know me anymore. You never asked what I've been doing for 33 years besides welding steel. He stares at the documents, at me, at the harbor view stretching behind me, like everything he built is suddenly glass that might shatter. The folder sits between us. Conversion notice, whistleblower, filing derivative lawsuit. 3 pieces of paper that just made me his partner, his protector, and his biggest problem. And I stand and walk to the door. We'll talk again when you're ready to ask the right questions. I open my wallet and place the Purple Heart on the table between us. 30 years I've kept it hidden. Griffin stares at the ribbon, the bronze star, the profile of George Washington. His face shifts from anger to confusion. You never told me you earned this. You never asked what I did in the Gulf. I push Malcolm's business card across the walnut next to the metal. Griffin picks it up, reads it twice. Malcolm Kirkland, founder and managing partner, Kirkland Strategic Advisors. Assets under management, $2.1 billion. Griffin looks up. The whistleblower clause in my contract, Malcolm's attorney wrote it. You signed it without reading paragraph 7C. His hand tightens on the card. Who is he? That Marine I pulled from a burning Humvee in January 1991. Fallujah Highway. He was 23, first tour shrapnel in his leg and the fuel tank about to blow. I got him out 30 seconds before it went up. Griffin sets down the card like it might burn him. You saved his life. I did my job. He built a career. Now he runs a $2.1 billion firm in Chicago and puts whistleblower clauses in every contract he reviews because he believes fraud destroys markets the same way IEEDs destroy convoys. The harbor view behind Griffin stretches infinite and bright. Boats cross the water. Helicopters angle toward the financial district. Life moving forward while my son sits frozen, realizing his father isn't who he thought. For 30 years, I've been two people the welder Griffin knows, and the veteran he doesn't. Today those halves finally meet. The forensic accountant, Griffin says quietly. The attorney who drafted the conversion notice. The derivative lawsuit filing. That wasn't just you. Stuart Harrington funded the legal team. His father was the Marine I carried 8 miles through the desert when his leg got infected and medevac couldn't land. Stuart runs a $6 billion ESG fund in Boston. He hates pump and dump schemes because they prey on retirees, the same retirees his fund is designed to protect. Griffin's breath comes shallow now. The Patek Philippe catches light as his hand shakes. How many people in your network? Enough. I lean back in the Herman Miller chair. 4 years in Desert Storm, 17 confirmed saves, 12 of them still alive, 6 of them run firms, 3 of them owe me their careers. All of them believe fraud is theft, and theft deserves consequences. His iPhone vibrates on the table. The screen lights up, wife. Griffin glances at me, then answers on speaker. Leora. Her voice comes through high and fast words tumbling over each other like she's losing control of the cadence. Hey, Daddy, he's manipulating you. That whistleblower status can be reversed. Don't sign anything. I'll bring Richard over right away. He'll explain how your father is using legal tricks to freeze the fund. I watch Griffin's face. The confusion shifts to something sharper. Leora, he interrupts. Who is Richard? Why would you bring him to my office? Silence on the line. 3 seconds, 5. Then Richard is he's a consultant, someone who can help unwind this situation. What kind of consultant? Corporate strategy. Griffin, please just don't sign anything until I get there with him. We can fix this. Griffin ends the call, sets the phone down, stares at it like the screen might hold answers. She's never mentioned Richard before, he says quietly. No, I agree, she hasn't. The room feels smaller now. The windows still show the harbor, the Statue of Liberty, the bridges connecting Manhattan to the world beyond. But inside this office, the walls are closing. I lean forward. I'm giving you 48 hours. Stop all pump and dump operations. Start refunding retail clients by Monday. I'll withdraw the SEC tip. It hasn't been processed yet. And if I don't, I let the SEC run the investigation. You go to federal prison, 12 to 20 years. Griffin stands, walks to the window, presses his palm against the glass like he's testing whether it's real. You're asking me to dismantle my entire business model in 2 days. I'm asking you to stop stealing from people who can't afford to lose their savings. The pump and dump cycles stop. The refunds begin. You rebuild using legitimate strategies, or you don't rebuild at all. I need more time, a week at least. You have 48 hours. How do you give your son an ultimatum that could send him to prison and still call it love? You tell yourself it's the only way to save him. You tell yourself prison would destroy him, but letting him continue the fraud would destroy 2,800 families. You tell yourself the hard choice is still a choice made from something that used to be love before it. Got buried under 30 years of silence and resentment in boots that didn't belong at Plaza Hotel galas. Griffin turns from the window. His face is pale, the Brioni suit suddenly looking too big on his frame. What if I can't stop it? What if the operations are too embedded? What if Leora... He stops, swallows. What if I'm not the one controlling it? Then you shut down the fund entirely and cooperate with the SEC. You take the plea deal. You serve 18 months instead of 20 years. But you don't let your wife drag you deeper into something you didn't build. I stand and collect the Purple Heart from the table, slide it back into my wallet next to the 3 questions I wrote this morning. The folder with the conversion document stays on the walnut surface. 48 hours, I repeat. Malcolm will be monitoring fund activity. Stewart will be watching the refund processes. If you try to move assets offshore or liquidate positions to hide evidence, I'll know within 30 minutes. Griffin says nothing, just stares at the folder like it's a bomb that already detonated. I walk to the door. My hand touches the brushed steel handle. Then I turn back. "Oh, son, ask your wife who Richard is." Look into her eyes when she answers. The signal notification arrives at 11:47 p.m., 73 minutes of audio file, size 89 megabytes sender, blocked ID. I sit on the edge of the hotel bed in room 412 and stare at my phone screen. The download bar fills slowly, hotel Wi-Fi struggling with the file size. A second message appears, package delivered, 73 minutes, complete. Malcolm's analyst. The recording device planted in the orchid vase on Griffin's UES penthouse mantle 3 days ago. Operating under New York one-party consent, because the analyst was authorized by building management for environmental monitoring. Legal, clean, comprehensive. The download finishes at 11:51. I tap the file. Timestamp started 10:30 p.m. Friday ended 11:43 p.m. Friday, 13 minutes ago. My son just finished a meeting I wasn't invited to less than 12 hours after I gave him the 48-hour ultimatum. I text back to the blocked ID, received. Will listen at 0300. Malcolm said the device would capture everything. Conference quality audio voice isolation, timestamp verification. I'm not ready to hear my son plot against me. Not yet. I set the phone on the pressboard desk and look out the 9th floor window at Hell's Kitchen below. 9th Avenue stretches south toward the financial district, where my son's office sits dark and empty. Steam rises from subway grates. A garbage truck rumbles past. Somewhere across the city, Griffin is making decisions. And I'm about to hear every word. At 3 a.m., I sit cross-legged on the hotel bed with earphones in and press play. Static. Footsteps. Then Leora's voice clear and controlled. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. We have a situation that requires immediate strategic response." Background murmurs. At least 4 other voices I don't recognize. Griffin speaks next. "My father filed SEC whistleblower status and converted his promissory note to 34% equity. He's frozen operational authority pending compliance review." Someone, older male unfamiliar, asks, "What's the exposure?" $60 million in fund assets, Leora answers. 2,800 investor accounts, potential federal investigation if we don't neutralize the threat. The word neutralize sits in my stomach like broken glass. Leora continues. "We file countersuit Monday morning. Allegations, PTSD, related cognitive impairment, undue influence from outside parties, lack of financial sophistication to understand convertible instruments. A welder doesn't comprehend equity conversion mechanics. Someone manipulated him." Nay, that's character assassination. A younger voice objects. "That's legal defense," Leora counters. Griffin's father is 55 Gulf War veteran, documented combat exposure. We argue diminished capacity, get a psych eval ordered. Delay the whistleblower processing 6 to 9 months while discovery proceeds. My hands tighten on the phone. The earphones press deeper. "Leora." Griffin's voice hesitant. "He's my father. Cognitive decline accusations will destroy him publicly." Silence. 3 seconds, 5. Then Leora, softer but sharper. "Honey, your father is threatening our 60 million. Don't be weak." Another pause. Griffin, "Okay, draft it. This hurts worse than the gala that night. He was cold tonight. He's actively trying to destroy me." The recording continues. Discussion of emergency board vote Saturday morning to remove me from preferred shareholder status. Drafting talking points for press release, questioning my mental fitness. Someone mentions medical records from VA Pittsburgh. Can they subpoena PTSD treatment notes? Then a new voice, male mid-50s corporate smooth. "This is Lyle Caldwell, Peregrine Capital. I want to confirm on record our firm will publicly back the countersuit. We'll issue statement Monday supporting Griffin Mercer's position that outside manipulation compromised his father's judgment. We have significant capital deployed in competitive positions. We can't allow SEC interference based on questionable whistleblower claims." So, that's what Lyle Caldwell sounds like. Managing director at the firm that embedded Leora orchestrated the fraud cycles and now plans to destroy me to protect their front-running operation. The meeting runs another 40 minutes. Legal strategy media, prep timeline coordination. Griffin speaks less and less. Leora drives every decision. At 71 minutes, she says, Griffin and I will handle the family angle. Lyle handles press. Legal team files Monday 9 a.m. Southern District. Any questions? None. Good. We reconvene Sunday evening for final review. Footsteps. Door closing. Recording ends. I sit in the dark hotel room at 4:03 a.m. with my heart aching worse than the night Celeste died, and Anna told me Griffin blamed me for not being there. 12 years ago, my daughter said, Dad, he won't come back until he loses everything and realizes you were right all along. I pull my wallet from the nightstand. Inside, next to the Purple Heart and the 3 questions I wrote yesterday morning, sits Celeste's sealed envelope. Cream cardstock, my name in her handwriting. Instructions written the week before. She died. Open when Griffin needs to remember who his mother was. The envelope feels like a stone in my wallet. 12 years she's been gone, and she knew this day would come. I set it on the bed next to my phone. Then I open my notebook, the same one I've been using since week 1, and write in block letters. Let him lose everything before he comes back. Anna warned me 12 years ago. At 4:15 a.m., I call Malcolm. He answers on the first ring. Brother, what happened? Run plan B. I say, SEC conference Wednesday. Invite media. I'm going on stage. Monday 9:30 a.m. Malcolm walks me into the federal prosecutor's office at Thurgood Marshall Courthouse, and the man behind the desk stands. I recognize the scar on his left hand before I recognize his face. Vernon Townsend, 55, now gray, at the temple's wire-rimmed glasses, replacing the combat goggles I remember. Federal prosecutor, Southern District of New York. Former Marine JAG who took shrapnel in Kuwait 1991 when an IED hit his transport convoy. I pulled him from the wreckage and packed the wound in his left hand while we waited 40 minutes for medevac under incoming fire. The scar runs from his thumb to his wrist, white against dark skin-raised tissue that never quite healed flat. Sergeant, he says, extending that same scarred hand. It has been 31 years. Malcolm told me what your son did. I am taking this case personally. I shake his hand. The grip is firm, steady, the hand of someone who learned to write again after nerve damage nearly ended his law school dreams. Vernon, you do not have to do this because I pulled you out of that Humvee. He gestures to the chairs. Malcolm and I sit. Vernon returns to his desk and opens a folder marked Mercer Capital Fund, Confidential. I am taking it because pump and dump schemes destroy retail investors who cannot afford the losses. That happens to be the crime I have built my career prosecuting. He slides a document across the desk. Malcolm provided forensic evidence Friday. SEC Enforcement Division is coordinating with my office for Wednesday conference. You will testify as formal witness. I scan the document. Federal criminal complaint against Griffin Mercer, Leora Mercer, née Bloom Lyle Caldwell, and Peregrine Capital Management. Charges securities fraud, wire fraud. Conspiracy to defraud investors. My son's name in black ink on federal charging documents. Vernon continues. From Wednesday 2 p.m. Eastern, I will have staff escort you from this building if Leora or Griffin approaches. Lyle Caldwell has already been subpoenaed. He will not attend voluntarily. What about Griffin? He will attend. His attorney filed notice this morning. They are cooperating pending discovery review. Malcolm speaks for the first time since we entered. He does not know about the recording yet. Vernon nods. We will introduce it Wednesday as evidence of conspiracy to obstruct federal investigation. The cognitive decline countersuit becomes Exhibit A. I sign the witness statement and slide it back across the desk. 3 brothers from the Gulf. Malcolm saved, Vernon saved, and now both are saving my son, who does not know they exist. At 2 p.m., I sit in Malcolm's Chicago office on a video call while his analyst presents the forensic report. The analyst is younger, maybe 35, wearing a headset and sitting in front of 3 monitors. Her voice is clinical, detached. The tone of someone who has delivered bad news so many times it no longer registers as emotion. 2-year affair documented, she begins. 4 seasons, New York, Palm Beach, Aspen. Always under aliases, Leora uses Rebecca Morton. Lyle uses David Fletcher. The screen fills with hotel receipts. timestamps, credit card charges under the fake names cross-referenced with Leora's known location, data from her phone, GPS. Malcolm leans forward. Every hotel stay coincides with Griffin's out-of-town investor meetings. She knew his schedule. The analyst clicks through surveillance photos. Leora and Lyle entering the Four Seasons lobby in Manhattan. Leora and Lyle at a Palm Beach restaurant table, hands clasped across white linen. Leora and Lyle stepping into an elevator at the Aspen St. Regis, her hand on his lower back. "And how long have you known about this?" I ask Malcolm. "Since Thursday. I wanted complete evidence before telling you." The analyst continues. Pattern analysis shows Leora introduced Lyle Caldwell to Griffin 3 years ago as a business consultant. That introduction happened 2 months before their engagement. The email records suggest Leora and Lyle had known each other for 5 years. Prior they met when Leora was working at a Tel Aviv financial advisory firm that Peregrine Capital acquired in 2017. 5 years before the marriage, 2 months of courtship, 3 years of fraud. The analyst pulls up another document. The prenuptial agreement has a trigger clause buried in Section 12, subsection F. If Griffin Mercer is prosecuted for financial crimes resulting in criminal conviction, 51% of his personal assets automatically transfer to Leora Mercer. U.S. Penthouse Rolex Collection. Private jet fractional share offshore accounts in Cayman. I stare at the screen. Who writes a prenup like that? Malcolm's voice is quiet. Someone who knew prosecution was coming. How do you tell your son that his wife planned to destroy him before she ever said "I do"? You do not tell him. You let the federal prosecutor lay it out in a courtroom with exhibits and witness testimony and forensic evidence that cannot be denied. You let him see the hotel receipts and the alias names and the prenup clause that was always meant to strip him of everything he built. You let him realize that the woman he married was never his wife. She was an intelligence operative embedded by a rival firm to steal his strategies, frame him for fraud, and walk away with half his assets when the trap finally closed. The analyst closes her laptop. "Sir, your son was not just scammed in business. He was scammed in marriage from day one. Lyle is the handler. Leora is the asset." Big Tuesday, 6 p.m. Malcolm spreads the talking points across the war room table and says we have 18 hours to finalize this. The Willis Tower conference room fills with evening light. Chicago stretches 67 floors below the city, where my brother from the Gulf built a $2.1 billion firm and inserted the whistleblower clause that started everything. The table holds coffee cups, 3 laptops, and enough evidence folders to destroy my son's career. Stuart Harrington sits across from me, 52, now graying at the temples, but still carrying the lean frame of someone who runs marathons. Fund CEO based in Houston. $6 billion ESG portfolio focused on retiree protection. The same Marine whose father I carried 8 miles through desert heat in 1991 when his leg got infected and medevac couldn't land. He flew in this morning just to help coordinate the final strategy. Vernon appears on the video screen, his scarred left hand visible as he adjusts the camera angle from his Manhattan office. "The SEC chair confirmed you have 7 minutes, Vernon says. "Opening statement evidence submission, then surprise Q and A if Stewart's contact delivers." Stewart nods. I coordinated the surprise Q and A slot with the SEC chair. We served together in a 1991 Treasury Fellowship. He owes me. 3 brothers from the Gulf, one network built over 33 years of keeping in touch, showing up at weddings, attending funerals, remembering that brotherhood outlasts combat. They're doing this for me, for Griffin, for the families who lost everything. Malcolm slides a draft across the table. Statement draft. Opening identifies you as co-owner and whistleblower. Core facts, dollar amount, victim count, Cayman embezzlement the affair, Peregrine involvement. Closes with evidence submission directly to SEC chair on live camera. I read through it twice. The words are clinical, precise, devastating. Each sentence strips away another layer of the life Griffin built, or thought he built, before Leora embedded herself in it. This destroys him publicly, I say. Yes, Malcolm agrees. It also protects 2,800 families. Stewart leans forward, his voice quiet. Brother, if there's anything to say to Griffin before tomorrow, today is last chance. I pull out my phone and call Griffin's number. It rings 6 times. Voicemail. His voice on the recording sounds confident, professional, completely unaware that in 18 hours, his world ends. I hang up and text instead, "Tomorrow 2 p.m. bring Richard. Bring your wife, I will be on stage." The message shows delivered. Read receipt appears after 30 seconds. No response. Malcolm pats my shoulder. "Get some rest. Tomorrow changes everything." I don't sleep that night. Just lie in the Hell's Kitchen hotel room with Celeste's sealed envelope on the nightstand and the Purple Heart in my wallet, thinking about what it means to save someone by destroying everything they believe about themselves. Wednesday, 2:15 p.m. I step onto the stage at Javits Convention Center, Grand Ballroom. 600 attendees fill the space: SEC enforcement officials, federal prosecutors, financial journalists, compliance attorneys from every major firm in Manhattan. The ceiling soars 40 feet overhead. CNBC cameras position left and right, red recording lights steady. Bloomberg feed runs live on monitors mounted above the exits. The SEC chair just finished his keynote on market integrity enforcement priorities. Gray-haired mid-60s, carrying the authority of someone who has sent traitors to prison for less than what Griffin's fund has done. He returns to his front row seat as I approach the microphone. The ballroom goes quiet. 600 people stop talking, stop checking phones, stop pretending this is just another conference panel. Malcolm sits 3 rows back, Stewart beside him. Vernon stands near the side entrance with 2 federal marshals in dark suits. In the back row, I spot Griffin Brioni, suit, white shirt, no tie. Stone-faced. Leora sits beside him in black Chanel legs, crossed expression, unreadable. 3 seats away, Lyle Caldwell checks his phone, like this has nothing to do with him. I adjust the microphone. The sound system hums. My hands are steady. Same steadiness I felt in the Gulf when lives depended on not shaking. My name is Desmond Mercer. I am 34% co-owner of Mercer Capital Fund and SEC whistleblower number 2, 1F-2024. I am here to submit evidence of fraud. The CNBC ticker updates along the bottom of the monitor screens. Breaking Mercer Capital whistleblower, father of CEO. Over 18 months, Mercer Capital operated pump-and-dump schemes totaling $60.4 million in damage across 2,847 retail investors, most of them retirees who cannot afford the losses. I pull the evidence folder from my jacket and hold it up so the cameras catch it. The CEO's wife embezzled $485,000 via Cayman Shell Company while conducting a 2-year affair with Peregrine Capital, managing director, leaking proprietary strategies to our competitor. Peregrine Capital is now under parallel Southern District investigation for front-running and market manipulation. I am destroying my son in front of 600 people and 2 television networks, and it is the only way to save him. The ballroom remains silent. No one coughs, no one shifts in their seats. CNBC cameras stay locked on me. A journalist in the second row types frantically on her laptop. I walk down from the stage and approach the SEC chair in the front row. He stands and accepts the folder, his expression neutral, but his eyes sharp. This contains forensic accounting records, wire transfer documentation, call logs, hotel receipts, email headers, and audio recordings of conspiracy to obstruct federal investigation. I say, all evidence is time-stamped and chain of custody verified. The SEC chair nods once. We'll review this immediately. He returns to his seat. I turn to face the ballroom. 600 people stare back, some shocked, some calculating the implications, some already drafting headlines. In the back row, Griffin stands. His face is pale, jaw tight, his hands clenched at his sides. But he says nothing. No objection, no defense, no fight. Leora grabs her purse and flees toward the exit heels, clicking on the ballroom floor. Lyle Caldwell rises and follows her, but 2 federal marshals step in front of the door, blocking it with their bodies. Vernon moves behind them, holding subpoena documents in a leather folio. The arrogance is gone. I look at Griffin across the ballroom, across 60 feet of Manhattan's financial elite, watching his empire collapse in real time. Across 32 years of silence and resentment and choices that led us here. For the first time in 32 years, his eyes lack arrogance. I exit Javits through the back service door at 2:45 p.m., and Malcolm is already on his phone. The dominoes are falling faster than we planned. The service corridor is concrete and fluorescent lights, delivery workers, wheeling equipment carts, catering staff, clearing lunch setups. Malcolm hangs up and turns to me. SEC just suspended trading. Vernon froze the Cayman accounts. It is happening. We step into afternoon Manhattan sunlight. Midtown traffic flows steady. Horns, sirens. The city moving forward like nothing just ended inside that ballroom. My phone vibrates. Text from Vernon. Lyle in custody. Federal marshals have him at Foley Square. Not cooperating. Malcolm's phone buzzes. He reads the screen and shows me, Peregrine CEO fired Lyle 37 minutes ago. Press release says effective immediately for cause. 37 minutes. The machinery Vernon promised would take 9 hours to process everything is moving faster than any of us expected. We walk 3 blocks to Malcolm's rental car. Black Suburban parked in a loading zone. Inside, he pulls up Twitter on his phone. Hashtag trending number 1, hashtag Mercer Capital. Second, hashtag whistleblower father. CNBC loops my speech. The footage shows me handing the evidence folder to the SEC chair. Camera zooms on Griffin standing in the back row, frozen pale, silent. How long before the fund collapses completely, I ask. Malcolm starts the engine. SEC suspension kills liquidity within hours. Investors will file redemption notices by morning. The fund is dead. Question is whether Griffin cooperates or fights. We drive back to Hell's Kitchen in silence. At 4 p.m., I sit in room 412, while Malcolm coordinates with Vernon and Stewart via conference call. The tactical machinery I built over 6 weeks is executing exactly as designed. But watching it happen feels different than planning it. I built the dominoes for 6 weeks. It takes 9 hours for them all to fall. At 6:15 p.m., Malcolm's phone buzzes with a photo. He shows me the screen, Leora at JFK Terminal 4, pulling a silver carry-on, wearing sunglasses and a black coat. Airport security camera, timestamp 1811. Dubai flight, Malcolm says. Boards in 40 minutes. I stare at the photo. She's running, leaving Griffin behind with the wreckage while she flees to a country with no extradition treaty. At 6:47, Malcolm receives another text. He reads it and closes his eyes. Federal marshals took her at the gate. Wire fraud and embezzlement charges. Vernon had the warrant ready. My phone vibrates. Text from Vernon. Leora Mercer in custody. Dubai flight departed without her. At 8:30 p.m., Malcolm's analyst sends a financial alert. Griffin discovered Leora withdrew $280,000 from joint personal account. Last 2 hours. ATM, withdrawals wire, transfers cash, advances. She drained it before attempting to flee. $280,000. The last money she could steal before the trap closed. She planned to leave him with nothing, not even the illusion of loyalty. Malcolm sits across from me at the hotel desk. Outside, night settles over Hell's Kitchen. 9th Avenue glows with neon signs and streetlights. News helicopters are circling Griffin's building, Malcolm says. Reporters camped in the lobby. He cannot leave without being mobbed. Where is he now? UES penthouse. Alone. Leora's attorney sent divorce filing electronically at 7:40 p.m. She is cutting him loose while she is in federal custody. I think about Griffin sitting in that Central Park View penthouse, every window showing him a city that just watched his empire collapse on live television. His wife arrested, his funds suspended, his name trending as the CEO whose father exposed him for fraud. Everything stripped away in 9 hours. At 11:58 p.m., my Nokia vibrates on the nightstand. Text from Griffin, Dad, I have nowhere to go. 7 words. I sit on the edge of the hotel bed staring at the screen. Malcolm left 2 hours ago. The room is quiet except for the hiss of the radiator and distant traffic below. The pressboard desk holds my notebook Celeste's sealed envelope, and the Purple Heart I carried to Griffin's office last Friday. For 47 minutes I sit on the hotel bed, staring at those 7 words. The son who tried to have me declared mentally incompetent 5 days ago is now asking his father for shelter. The son who let his wife make cracks about my boots at the Plaza Gala is now homeless. The son who stood silent in that boardroom while Leora orchestrated my destruction is now broken and desperate and reaching out to the only person who might still answer. 47 minutes. I stare at 7 words before I understand what fatherhood costs. It costs saving someone who tried to destroy you. It costs offering shelter to someone who wanted you erased. It costs loving someone who chose everyone else first until everyone else abandoned him. My thumb hovers over the keyboard. Outside, a siren wails past. A couple argues in the hallway. The radiator hisses. I think about Celeste, what she would say if she could see this moment. What Anna warned me 12 years ago when Griffin stopped returning my calls after his mother's funeral. I think about the Gulf, about pulling Malcolm from that burning Humvee and carrying Stuart's father through 8 miles of desert and packing Vernon's hand while we waited for medevac that might never come. Brotherhood isn't transactional. It doesn't calculate cost versus benefit. It shows up when everyone else has left. And fatherhood, real fatherhood, the kind that survives rejection in silence and 32 years of mistakes on both sides. Fatherhood is just brotherhood that starts earlier and cuts deeper. At 12:45 a.m., I type my reply. Room 412, Hell's Kitchen, Regency, 9th Avenue. Door is unlocked. The message shows delivered. Read receipt appears after 12 seconds. Then, thank you. I set the phone on the nightstand next to Celeste's envelope and wait for my son to come home. At 12:45 a.m. Thursday, I text back 7 words. Saturday 6 a.m. Pittsburgh South Side, 1 bag. The Nokia screen glows in the dark hotel room. Outside 9th Avenue sits empty except for a delivery truck idling at a red light. The radiator hisses. My thumb hovers over the send button for 3 seconds before I press it. Message delivered. 30 seconds pass. Then, Dad, they are freezing my accounts. I do not have flight money. I stare at the text. Griffin Mercer, the son who ran a fund valued at $48 million 6 days ago, cannot afford a plane ticket home. I type Amtrak Penn Station's $78 one-way ticket Pittsburgh. I know you have $78. Check your old jacket pocket. The one he wore to Celeste's funeral 12 years ago. Navy blazer with brass buttons. I saw him fold 320s and 210s into the inside pocket before the service because he always kept emergency cash. They're a habit from college when his credit card got declined at a gas station in Connecticut, and he had to call me for help. Some habits survive even arrogance. The Nokia goes silent. No reply, no read receipt. I turn off the light and lie on the hotel bed, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling, until gray dawn light fills the window. Saturday, 5:55 a.m. Griffin arrives at the Pittsburgh South Side welding shop gate. 5 minutes early. I stand outside with black coffee in a paper cup, watching him walk up the street. Wrinkled jeans, white t-shirt, navy blazer, the same one from Celeste's funeral. Canvas duffel bag slung over his shoulder. No Brioni suit, no Patek Philippe, no leather briefcase. His face is unshaven eyes, red-rimmed, like he hasn't slept since Wednesday. He stops 10 feet from the gate. We look at each other across the morning cold. Neither of us speaks. I drain the coffee, crush the paper cup, and toss it in the oil drum by the fence. Then I unlock the gate and pull it open. The metal screams on rust-seized rollers. Inside, the shop smells like iron dust and cutting oil and 30 years of 12-hour shifts. The welding table sits in the center, scarred and pitted. 3 industrial brooms lean against the back wall next to bags of accumulated metal shavings that need sweeping. I pick up a broom and dustpan, throw them to Griffin. He catches them, looks at me, looks at the broom, does not ask why. I point to the 3 bags of iron dust near the grinder station. Let's start there, I say. Work your way to the loading bay. When you finish, there are 2 welding masks on the bench. Put one on. Griffin sets down his duffel bag against the wall, picks up the broom, starts sweeping. He picks up the broom without asking why. 32 years of arrogance gone in one night. I walk to the welding table and pull on my gloves. The torch ignites with a soft pop. Blue flame steady and hot. I position the first joint 2 pieces of angle iron that need to become a support bracket for a customer's loading dock repair. The arc strikes. Blue-white light floods the shop. Behind me, I hear the scrape of broom bristles on concrete, the soft clatter of metal shavings hitting the dustpan. Griffin working. For the first time in 32 years, we are in the same room doing the same kind of work. I weld 4 brackets. Griffin sweeps 3 sections. Neither of us speaks. The only sounds are the hiss of the torch, the scrape of the broom, and the distant rumble of Saturday morning traffic on the south side. At 9 a.m., I shut off the torch and nod toward the welding masks. Griffin puts his broom against the wall and picks up the second mask. It is old, scarred, the face shield scratched from years of sparks. He adjusts the headband and looks at me through the dark glass. I show him how to hold the torch, how to strike the arc, how to move steady and slow so the bead forms clean. He burns through the first joint, scorches the second. By the third attempt, he gets a bead that holds. By noon, his hands are blistered. He does not complain. We break for lunch. I hand him a sandwich from the cooler turkey and Swiss on white bread. Same thing I have eaten for 30 years. He eats it without comment. At 6:30 p.m., I turn off the welding flame for the last time. Griffin pulls off his mask. His face is streaked with soot hair, matted with sweat. The white t-shirt is gray with metal dust. He looks like I did at 25. I am cleaning the torch when he speaks. Dad, why Warren? I turn. I do not understand. Griffin sets the mask on the bench. A man named Warren in Texas called me at noon. Said he would be stopping by here next week. I told him I was not sure where I would be. He said you would know. The blue arc light shows both our faces for the first time as equals welder and apprentice father and son. I stand still, torch in hand. Warren, Texas. I do not know anyone named Warren. Malcolm is Chicago. Stewart is Houston, but his name is Stewart. Vernon is New York. The 17 confirmed saves from the Gulf. I know every name, every face, every scar. None of them are Warren. What exactly did he say, I ask. Griffin pulls out his phone, a cheap Nokia, not the iPhone that probably got seized with his other assets. He reads from a text, Warren Castellano calling regarding Desmond Mercer. Will visit Pittsburgh Southside shop next Wednesday 10 a.m. Please inform your father. Castellano. The name hits me like shrapnel, Celeste's maiden name. Her brother, my brother-in-law, who disappeared to Texas after her funeral and never returned my calls. Warren Castellano is coming to my shop after 12 years of silence. I set down the torch and look at Griffin. He is your uncle, I say quietly, your mother's brother. I have not spoken to him since the day we buried her. 7 days Griffin works 12-hour shifts at the welding shop and does not complain once. Saturday through Friday, dawn to dusk. The old electric heater barely cuts the November cold, but he never asks for warmer gloves. I give him increasingly heavy tasks, sweeping loading steel stock, sawing pipe with the band, saw grinding rough edges smooth with the angle grinder. At day 3, his back cannot take it. I see him wince when he bends to pick up a length of channel iron. He does not stop working. Day 5, his hands are swollen, blisters opened and bleeding through the cotton gloves. He wraps them with electrical tape and keeps welding. Day 7. Friday afternoon, he brings me a bowl of Quaker oatmeal at lunch. Just sets it on the welding table next to my coffee thermos. Steam rises from the bowl. He made it on the hot plate in the back office, added brown sugar the way I have always eaten it. First time in 20 years, he has done anything for me without being asked. I take the bowl, nod once. He nods back and returns to grinding. That night after we close the shop, Griffin sits on an old propane tank near the loading bay door. His face is streaked with soot t-shirt, gray with metal dust hands wrapped in fresh tape. Dad, he says quietly, how is it you taught me 32 years and I still did not know who you were? I set down the torch and pull off my gloves. Because I was afraid you only loved the version of me you imagined. He looks at the concrete floor between his boots. But what version was that? The one who did not wake up at 3 a.m. The one who did not carry 30 years of mistakes. The one who was just a welder and not a soldier who failed to save everyone. How do you teach a son for 32 years while hiding the part of you that still wakes up at 3 a.m.? You show him the broom and the torch and the steel. You teach him measurements and angles and how to strike a clean arc. You let him see the work, but not the scars. Until the day he picks up that broom without asking why, and you realize he is finally ready to see both. The following Saturday evening, Malcolm arrives from Chicago. We sit in my backyard under the patio heater with Iron City beer and burgers from the gas grill. November cold settles over Pittsburgh. The South Side glows across the river bars and restaurants lighting up for Saturday night. Malcolm wears a flannel shirt and jeans, looking more like the Marine I pulled from that Humvee than the fund manager who runs $2.1 billion in Chicago. Griffin sits across from us. Cleaner now, freshly showered, but his hands still show the blisters and his face still carries the exhaustion of 7 days, learning what manual labor costs. For the first time in 30 years, the three of us sit together, father, son, and the brother from the Gulf who helped save the son from himself. Malcolm drinks his beer and tells the story I have never been able to tell. January 1991. He begins. Kuwait Highway 80. Our convoy hit an IED at 0400. The Humvee caught fire. Fuel line ruptured, flames spreading fast. Your father was in the vehicle behind us. Griffin leans forward. Malcolm continues. He pulled Vernon Townsend out first. Shrapnel in Vernon's hand, bleeding bad, but conscious. Then he came back for me. I had taken shrapnel to the leg, could not move. He dragged me 20 feet from the wreck while the fuel tank was about to blow. The patio heater hisses. Somewhere down the block a dog barks. But there was a fourth man, Malcolm says quietly. Corporal Jackson from Detroit, 21 years old, first deployment. He was trapped in the back seat unconscious from the initial blast. Your father went back for him. My chest tightens. 30 years, and hearing it spoken aloud still feels like shrapnel. Malcolm looks at Griffin. The fuel tank exploded before your father could reach him. Corporal Jackson died instantly. Your father tried for 3 minutes to pull him from the flames before Vernon and I physically dragged him away. Griffin's face goes white. Your father cried for 3 months afterward, Malcolm says. 30 years of PTSD. He never told anyone. Not your mother, not you. Just carried it alone. Oh, what was the fourth man's name? Griffin asks, voice barely audible. Corporal Jackson, Malcolm repeats. I still send flowers to his grave every February 2nd. Malcolm sends flowers to Corporal Jackson's grave every February 2nd for 30 years. Some debts you cannot stop paying. We sit in silence. The patio heater glows orange. Malcolm finishes his beer. Griffin stares at his hands like he is seeing them for the first time, blistered, wrapped in tape, finally understanding what it costs to try to save someone and fail. I am sorry, Dad, Griffin says. I shake my head. You did not know. I should have asked. I should have told you. Another silence. Malcolm stands and stretches. I am going to sleep, he says. Brother guest room still upstairs. I nod. Malcolm claps my shoulder once and heads inside. Griffin stays on the patio. The heater hums. The river reflects city lights beyond the trees. He pulls his jacket tighter against the cold. Dad, he says after a long pause, Warren is coming tomorrow. I look at him. Who is Warren? I still do not know anyone named Warren. The name Castellano Celeste's maiden name sits in my mind like undetonated ordnance. Warren Castellano is her brother, my brother-in-law, who disappeared to Texas 12 years ago and never answered when I called after the funeral. But I told Griffin that last week. He knows Warren is his uncle. So why is he asking again? I mean, Griffin clarifies, who is he really? Why is he coming now? The patio heater hisses. November wind rustles the bare trees. I do not know, I say honestly. Your mother's brother and I have not spoken since the day we buried her. I do not know why he is coming. I do not know what he wants. Griffin nods, slowly staring at the dark river. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. we will find out. Sunday 11 a.m. A dusty 2009 Ford F-15. O parks outside the shop, and a man in Carhartt flannel walks in holding a measurement paper. 57 maybe, salt and pepper beard, trucker hat, dirty boots that have seen real ranch work. He does not look like money looks like every contractor who has walked through this door in 30 years. Need steel railings for my Texas ranch, he says. 120 linear feet. Can you do custom work? Griffin stands behind the counter. He has been helping me run the shop for 2 weeks now, learning to quote jobs and consult on specifications. He looks up from the invoice pad. Yes, sir, Griffin says politely. Let me get you specs and coffee. My dad can consult on measurements. I walk over from the welding table. The man extends his hand. Warren, he says. Warren from Texas. I shake his hand. Calloused palm. Firm grip. The face is unfamiliar. Weathered sun. Worn the kind that comes from decades working outdoors. Desmond, I reply. What kind of railings? He spreads the measurement paper on the counter, shows me a hand-drawn diagram of a wraparound porch measurements marked in his own handwriting. We talk specifications for 20 minutes. Galvanized steel versus powder-coated, post spacing, load requirements for Texas wind. Griffin brings him coffee in a paper cup. Warren sits on the stool by the counter and drinks it slowly, asking questions about turnaround time and shipping to Houston. For 1 hour he sits in my shop. I do not recognize him. At 11:47, Warren stands, thanks us for the consultation, and says he will think about the quote. He places a business card on the counter. Call me if you have questions, he says. Then he walks out to the F-150 and drives away. I pick up the card. It reads Lawrence Garrett, Gulf War 1990 to 1991, Delta Company. The man who saved your life 30 years ago, and you did not recognize his face. Malcolm steps out from the corner of the shop, where he has been standing silent the entire hour. Brother, Malcolm says quietly. That was Warren. Griffin looks confused. He said his name was Warren. His name is Lawrence Garrett, Malcolm explains. The torn face in the Polaroid. I tore it 20 years ago because he asked me to hide his identity. My chest tightens. Malcolm continues. Lawrence has built an $8.4 million trust fund in your name since 1994. Texas oil and real estate. You did not know. He did not want you to know until Griffin became the man who deserved it. Griffin stands frozen behind the counter. Every time Celeste needed experimental cancer treatment and the insurance would not cover it, Lawrence paid, Malcolm says. Every time you got a coincidentally well-paying steel contract during slow months, Lawrence arranged it. Every house repair that somehow cost less than quoted, Lawrence covered the difference. I sit down on the stool Warren just vacated. The coffee cup still sits on the counter, half empty. They're 30 years, Malcolm says. He has been backing you quietly because you saved his life in 1990 when an IED hit his transport and you pulled him from the wreckage unconscious. He made his fortune and decided the best way to repay you was to let you live without financial fear while never letting you know it was him. Behind the counter, Griffin drops his coffee cup. It shatters on the concrete floor. Malcolm walks to the door and looks out at the empty street where the F-150 disappeared. He wanted to meet Griffin, Malcolm says, to see if your son had become humble enough to receive what Lawrence has been protecting for you. He sat here for 1 hour watching Griffin serve him coffee and consult on railings, and he decided yes. Malcolm turns back to me. The trust transfers to you and Griffin jointly, $8.4 million. Lawrence said, Sarge, I never wanted thanks. I wanted you to live well. Your son will now. I cannot speak. Malcolm pats my shoulder once and walks out, leaving Griffin and me alone in the shop with the shattered coffee cup and the business card and the weight of 30 years of secret generosity I never earned but somehow received anyway. 1 p.m. we sit at my kitchen table. Hickory wood, bologna sandwiches on white bread, Iron City beer sweating in the December cold coming through the window crack. I tell Griffin everything. For 30 years, I say every time your mother needed experimental drugs, every house repair, every coincidental good steel contract, all Lawrence. I thought I earned it alone. Griffin stares at his sandwich. I told you. I continue, my voice breaking. I told you that you needed to stand on your own, that you relied too much on shortcuts and schemes, that you never built anything yourself. First time I have cried in 18 years, not for Lawrence's gift, but for my own blindness. Son, I thought I built this on my own. I told myself I earned everything, but I had backup I did not know about. Perhaps I also judged you unfairly. Griffin's face is wet. He does not wipe the tears. We sit in silence. 12 minutes pass. The kitchen clock ticks. Outside a car drives past. The refrigerator hums. Finally, Griffin speaks. Dad, can I earn it back? I look at my son across the hickory table. Same green eyes as mine. Same hands now blistered and calloused from 2 weeks of welding. Same face, but humbler now. Broken open in the way that only losing everything can break a man. I have an offer, I say. It will not be easy. Task 6.3, I pull the folder from the kitchen drawer and slide it across the hickory table. Griffin looks at it. Brown manila, legal size. His name handwritten on the tab in my block letters. This folder contains a plea bargain negotiated with Vernon Townsend. I say, 18 to 24 months minimum security federal prison. Full cooperation required. Testimony against Leora Mercer and Lyle Caldwell. Testimony against Peregrine Capital Management. Griffin opens the folder. The first page is federal court letterhead. United States District Court, Southern District of New York. His hands shake slightly as he reads. I continue. During 3 years supervised release after prison, you work full-time, without pay at the Investor Restitution Center in Pittsburgh. Lawrence Garrett is sponsoring the office. You will compensate every penny owed to 2,847 retail investors who lost money in the pump-and-dump schemes. Griffin looks up. Every penny, I confirm. Malcolm's forensic team calculated total damages at $60.4 million. The SEC froze and recovered $41.2 million from Mercer Capital accounts. Peregrine Settlements and Leora's Cayman shell. That leaves $19.2 million in outstanding restitution. He flips to the second page. Restitution schedule, payment plan, victim contact database. After 3 years, I say, if you complete the program in full, every victim compensated every hour logged, every supervised release condition met, I will transfer the remaining 20% equity of restructured Mercer Capital Fund to you. Griffin's eyes widen. The fund still exists. SEC allowed restructure, new management, new compliance systems, limited operations. But 20% equity remains available for future transfer on condition you use profits to continue funding restitution projects and investor education programs. The plan was already in place before Griffin asked if he could earn it back. Vernon and I negotiated the plea deal 3 days ago. Malcolm structured the restitution center last week. Lawrence funded the office lease and startup capital Thursday. All Griffin had to do was ask. There is one more thing, I say quietly. Griffin looks up from the folder. Lawrence's trust will cover your living expenses for the next 3 years. Rent, food, transportation, medical. You will not know about it. The payments will come through the restitution center as a modest stipend. You will think you are surviving on your own effort. 2,847 people. Each one a name, a retirement, a trust, betrayed that my son must restore. Why would Lawrence do that? Griffin asks. Because that is what brothers do, I reply. They back you without asking for credit. They let you think you climbed the mountain alone because the climbing matters more than knowing someone secured the rope. Fate's best set up poems. Oh. Griffin stares at the folder. Vernon negotiated this plea assuming full victim compensation. I add, if you fail to complete the restitution program, the deal voids. Original charges return. You serve 12 to 20 years instead of 18 months. You lose everything. The equity transfer, the trust access, the second chance. I lean back in the kitchen chair, the same chair I have sat in for 30 years. Same hickory table where Celeste and I ate breakfast before she got sick. Same window looking out at the backyard, where Griffin used to play as a child before he grew up and forgot who his father was. Well, this is not easy, I say. 18 months in federal prison, 3 years working without pay, facing every investor you defrauded, apologizing 2,847 times, living in Pittsburgh instead of Manhattan, driving a used car instead of taking car service, eating bologna sandwiches instead of Plaza Hotel galas. Griffin does not look away from the folder. But it is the only path back, I finish. The only way to earn what was lost. The only way to become the man your mother believed you could be. Griffin reads every page. 18 minutes of silence. I watch him read the plea agreement, the restitution schedule, the equity transfer conditions, the supervised release requirements, the victim contact protocols, the quarterly progress reports to Vernon's office. He reads it all. Then he picks up the pen I placed beside the folder, signs the first page, the second, the third, every signature line, every initial box, every acknowledgement of terms. He does not hesitate. When he finishes, he sets the pen down carefully and looks at me across the hickory table. His eyes are red but clear. He says quietly, after 3 years, will I be worthy? Will he be worthy after 3 years? I do not know. But what father does not wait for his son? I smile slightly. The first real smile I have given him since the Plaza Gala 9 weeks ago. I do not know, I say honestly. Griffin's face falls slightly. But I will wait, I add. He looks at me. Green eyes meeting green eyes across 32 years of distance that is finally starting to close. 3 years, I continue. 18 months in prison and 3 years supervised release. I will wait. I will be here when you finish your sentence. I will be here when you start at the restitution center. I will be here every weekend when you come to the shop to learn welding. I will be here at the end of year 3 when we find out together if you earned it back. I stand and walk to the window. Outside December afternoon, light fades over Pittsburgh. The south side stretches toward the river. The welding shop sits 3 blocks away. Closed for Sunday, but ready to open Monday morning. Your mother waited 12 years for you to come back after you stopped calling, I say, still looking out the window. She died before you did. I will not make that mistake. I will wait however long it takes. Behind me, I hear Griffin stand, hear his chair scrape on the linoleum, hear him walk to where I stand at the window. Thank you, Dad, he says. I turn and look at my son. You are welcome, I reply. Now let us start. 14 months later, Griffin calls from the Investor Restitution Center, and his voice sounds different, calmer, older. Dad, he says, I have compensated 1,847 of 2,847 clients. 41.2 million of 60.4 million processed. I sit at the kitchen table with black coffee and the afternoon sun coming through the window. December 2023. 14 months since the SEC conference. 12 months since Griffin finished his prison sentence and started full-time at the Restitution Center. How many remain, I ask. 1,000 clients, $19 million, on track to complete by December 2025. His voice carries weight now, not the arrogance from the Plaza Gala, not the desperation from the Hell's Kitchen Hotel text. Something earned through apologizing to nearly 2,000 people face to face. Today, a 78-year-old woman picked up her check. Griffin continues. $73,000, her entire retirement savings. She looked at the check for maybe 2 minutes without saying anything. Then she looked at me and said, "Thank you for not giving up." Then she left. He pauses. I cried after she left. 20 seconds of silence on the phone line. I hear traffic in the background, the strip district where the Restitution Center sits. Griffin walks to work every morning from the studio apartment Lawrence's trust pays for without Griffin knowing. Son, I say finally, keep going. I will, he replies. See you Saturday at the shop. 6 a.m., bring the broom. He laughs quiet, genuine. Yes, sir. That night I open the safe in my bedroom closet. The envelope sits where I placed it 12 years ago. Cream card stock. My name in Celeste's handwriting. Instructions she wrote the week before she died. Open when Griffin needs to remember who his mother was. But I never opened it. Not when Griffin stopped calling after the funeral, not when he got engaged to Leora, not when I invested my life savings in his fund, not even after the Plaza Gala, when he looked at my boots like they embarrassed him. I waited until now. The kitchen glows with warm yellow light. 9 p.m. Snow falls outside the window, dusting the south side in white. I sit at the hickory table and break the seal. 2 pages, handwritten, her careful script filling every line. My love, if you are reading this, it means our boy has lost everything and has returned. I am sorry for keeping this secret 12 years, but I had to. I had a younger brother you did not know about. His name was Michael. He died when I was 19 before we met. Successful early, full scholarship to Princeton, investment banking internship at 21. He became arrogant toward our mother, dismissed her advice, stopped coming home for holidays because he was too important. My mother saved him by refusing to rescue him. When he asked for money, she said no. When he begged her to co-sign a loan, she said no. When he threatened to never speak to her again unless she helped, she said, "Then I will wait until you are ready to speak to me as a son and not as a beggar." He cut her off for 3 years. Then his firm collapsed in fraud. He lost everything. He came home broken. My mother fed him, sheltered him, helped him rebuild. But she never once said, "I told you so." She just loved him through the reconstruction. Michael died in a car accident 6 months later before he finished rebuilding. But those 6 months, he was the brother I remembered from childhood. Humble, grateful, real. And I learned from that. Our son will repeat the pattern because he is the child of us both, blood of people easily corrupted by success. He will become arrogant. He will reject you. He will need to lose everything before he remembers who raised him. Tough love is not punishment. It is the highest form of love. It is refusing to rescue someone from consequences they need to face. You, the quietest soldier who saved 17 men and cried for the one you could not save, you are the only one who can do it. I always knew. Wait for him, let him fall, then help him stand. I love you. Anna, she knew 12 years ago, sitting in that hospital bed, that our son would need to lose everything, and she knew I was the only one who could let it happen. I read the letter twice, fold it carefully, return it to the envelope, place it back in the safe next to the Purple Heart. Outside the window, snow falls over Pittsburgh. 6 months later, Memorial Day weekend, 2024, 4 men sit in my backyard around the Weber Grill. Green grass, Iron City beer in glass bottles, the smell of charcoal and steak, afternoon sun warm on our shoulders. Griffin tends the grill, 20 months into his restitution program, completed 2,200 clients, $14.3 million remaining. His hands are calloused from weekend welding. His face is tanned from walking to work instead of taking car service. He has lost the arrogance and gained something better, competence earned through humility. Malcolm sits across from me, telling a story about the Gulf War that makes Lawrence laugh. The three of us brothers from a war 34 years past, who still show up for each other's backyard barbecues. Griffin plates the steaks and serves us, takes his own seat last. He raises his Iron City bottle. And I want to say, Griffin begins, that none of this exists without my father. I look at him for 3 seconds. Then I smile slightly, the dry humor Celeste always said I save for moments that mattered. Well, I reply, it exists because you lost everything first. Do not get it twisted. Malcolm laughs. Lawrence nearly spits his beer. Griffin grins and shakes his head. From you would embarrass us too. I built this, you lost it. First the circle closes, not with victory, but with irony and grace. We eat steak and drink beer and watch the sun set over Pittsburgh. 4 men, 3 wars, 2 generations, 1 backyard. Sometimes the quietest father in the room is the one who has sacrificed the most. And the greatest sacrifice a father can make is not giving his son everything, but letting him lose it before giving it back. And to you listening to my story, remember this. The hardest battles a father fights are not in war zones, but in the quiet moments when love demands letting go. For 32 years, I thought strength meant protecting my son from every hardship. I was wrong. When Griffin stood in that Plaza Hotel ballroom and rejected me, I wanted to walk away forever. But Celeste knew better. She knew that sometimes saving someone means refusing to rescue them. Don't make my mistake of confusing protection with enablement. Real love sometimes looks like saying no. Family betrayal cuts deeper than any wound from war. But here is what I learned through this family story. Tough love is not punishment, it is the highest form of love. When your son or daughter loses their way, stepping back is harder than stepping in. Growth only happens when consequences become real. I believe God put me through this family betrayal to teach me what my wife already knew, that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the dignity of earning their own redemption. That is the lesson of this family story. If this story moved you, I would be honored if you would share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below and tell me, have you ever had to make a hard choice between protecting someone and letting them face consequences? Your perspective matters. And if you want more stories like this, please subscribe. Thank you for staying until the very end. Some details in this story have been adjusted for storytelling purposes, but the message about sacrifice, redemption, and the cost of tough love is what I hope you carry forward.